right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this special budget meeting of the Otero County Commission. And I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Markler?
Here.
Commissioner Matherly?
Here.
Commissioner Barela? Here.
And I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Good morning,
Here you go,
Commissioners.
Julianne. Floor is yours.
Thank you for being here today. Just wanted to let you know, under the capital outlay, there is going to be one additional item that I had completely forgotten about, and Eric reminded me. So he will be coming up. The third item will be the Chaparral Prison roof. He has some additional information on that he'd like to request. Everything else should be good. So, ready when you are.
We're ready.
Let's get Eric out of the way. That would be depressing. Is it in your, that item, is it in the new budget deal?
So what he's requesting is not in there. It's an additional $47,000. But yeah, there is a cash sheet that does have all the capital outlay in there, except shy of $47,000 for this. And I'll explain the salaries when we get to that point.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Eric Gadiano, Buildings and Grounds Superintendent. So after our last budget hearing, you guys had decided to go ahead and approve the option 2A, which was the 1.1 for basically a reinforcement of the roof up there, which would be kind of reinforcing and overlaying what was already existing. I spoke with the representative from Garland, and there was a third option that he presented to us, which was to actually do a complete tear off and redo the whole roof on both sides. And that was gonna be for 1.2, actually 1.3 with tax. Julianne did that this morning, for a difference of $47,000. And that will increase the warranty to a 30-year warranty. What that involves is they will take off the existing roof completely. They'll assess what needs to be repaired, replaced, like any insulation or anything like that. What they do is they go back over with a decking, a fiberboard, and then they go back over with an overlay cover, and then they do the actual asphalt roofing. So it'll be similar to what's already there.
So do they have some money set aside in there or figured in for replacement damage?
Yes, there was an additional 30,000, not 30,000, 30% figured in for each of those bids. That was for any unforeseens or any replacement of any of the insulation or any of those things. So that was all included in there.
Well, to go all brand new would be way better than just a patch and repair.
I 100% agree.
Me too. Yay, that was easy.
Told you I wouldn't be too bad. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just come and ask for money every time.
Morning, Commissioners. Matt Clark, Emergency Services Director.
Good morning.
Capital outlay request is for the dash cameras so that we can, one, protect our vehicles. And we are moving towards, like I said last time, that we believe more and more public safety, we're going to be in body cameras, fire, EMS, code enforcement. So just starting with our dash cams and having the ability to go ahead and add the body cameras that will link up to our dash cameras and have one set of evidence for us instead of multiple platforms. And then again, it works with what the sheriff has. So being able to combine everything, it's the best option to go ahead and proceed with.
So Mike, these notes here say you were gonna research it and see if there was other options. Did you find anything else?
Not anything that was worth it, in my opinion. Being able to I mean, yes, there are other cheaper options, but then being able to integrate the body cameras, which I suspect is going to happen more than likely next year. City code enforcement's already using body cameras. And as we move forward with our code enforcement and everything that they're going to have to do, we foresee us doing body cameras within the next 2 years.
And it does work with the sheriff's office equipment and stuff.
Yes, it's same
Okay.
stuff, so it's, yeah.
Amy, you were the one that had questions on that.
I guess in the future, I just want to see the comparisons of research. I want to make sure that we're using our money the best way. And the body camera thing and merging it, and I guess we have no choice than to go with this company, but I just like options.
When I did the last assessment, one more than you guys tax on, you could add a zero to it.
We don't like zeros.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good. Do you have any more questions?
No, I just want to make sure everything is going to work with our law enforcement.
It is, and that's why I went with that system, so that we'd be compatible.
Any more questions?
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, David
Morning.
Black, Otero County Sheriff. How are y'all today?
Good.
Good. I had met with Julianne to kind of talk about this on the vehicles. We get the capital outlay money from the state. They kind of whittled on it a little bit this year. It looks like I asked for 400,000, got 323. I was asking for the other 80,000 to be able to make sure I get the vehicles upfitted, all the emergency equipment and everything into them. And kind of what throws us back just a little bit is I've got vehicles here right now that need to be upfitted. We've got capital outlay money that's going to do all of them except 4. And then with the other money, I've got 5 more Tahoes coming. I can upfit those, but these 4 are the ones that I'm concerned about now. Is trying, if I can get this money, I can get all of them done. So we'll have some brand new Tahoes and stuff. So
This is additional money from what before? Or this is the same money as what we went through?
well, the capital outlay money that I'm getting is the state capital outlay.
Right, that 300 and something?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, this would be in addition to that. This would get me to that 400,000 mark that we kind of budgeted on. This would upfit 4 Tahoes that I've got sitting over in the shop right now waiting to be upfitted.
And then that department TRBDA, is that your department or is that,
That's dispatch.
that's dispatch?
Yeah,
Okay.
consolidation.
And that's not including, what do you gotta do to those 2 vehicles that are,
I think one of those vehicles is probably gonna get maybe a radio and then maybe a laptop computer and stuff in it. The other one's gonna be basically a training vehicle and stuff like that. So they're not gonna get a whole lot of equipment.
so you're just needing an extra 80,000, huh?
Yeah, just to upfit the vehicles that we've got here and the 5 more that'll be coming.
And that's 2 vehicles for dispatch, right? Is that for 2?
Now, this has nothing to do with the dispatch.
Yeah.
No, this, oh, I
Yeah.
see, never mind. I
Yeah.
answered my own question. It's on here.
Yeah.
So David, you're getting new vehicles just about every year. Where are you at on those?
Actually, we're in a pretty good spot right now. I've got some exploders, that's what we call them, Ford Explorers. They've got 200,000 miles on them and stuff. We just pulled, the last couple off the line. I've got some deputies that are at the courthouse. I got one that wasn't a Dodge Durango, and I got a couple of Ford Explorers down there. We are just, I think, 2 vehicles from having all of those vehicles completely out of patrol. We're going to have a auction soon and get rid of a bunch of this stuff. Yeah, we're real close to they're either in the Ford trucks or they're in the Chevy Tahoes. By the end of the year, I'll have all those high mileage vehicles out of patrol.
Well, every year you've gotten all your vehicles and we've cut other departments. I'm just trying to figure out a fair way to, don't get me wrong, I want you to make sure, but,
But
we cut stuff in the road department for equipment and stuff, and,
But the thing I think that we gotta consider too is we already have the vehicles, so we gotta be able to upfit them. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm trying to figure out a different, if we,
Somewhere else to take it out of.
we can't do these on,
And just a reminder, that 80,000 is actually already in here. The only thing that wasn't was for the prison roof, because I had forgotten about that, and we added that this morning. So, but the 80,000 is already included, as well as the dash cameras, so that's in the budget already.
all right.
Any questions? No? Anything else? Nope. Okay, all right, thank
Thank you.
you.
As far as the salaries, since we've got Tom and Ralph here, we should probably go over their information first. We had previously discussed all the new hires and the vacancies were in there. I have updated the salary request spreadsheets.
Okay.
It's this big packet of stuff. I've updated the number of vacancies because we have hired a few positions. And I've also updated on the new hire request because we chose not to approve the 7 detention officers or the ditch crew. So those items have been removed. But the things that were not discussed were increasing starting salaries for certain departments, and also some cert pay. So I don't know if we want to do, which one of you would like to come up first?
Ralph Murphy, Solid Waste Superintendent.
Good morning.
Morning.
Ralph.
think, for one, I'd like to give the convenience center and the road shop, starting wages up to $16 an hour. I think that we need to do that for sure.
I would not argue with that.
Well, Julianne, don't you think we need to, if we went RB's proposal,
If
which
you
is
were
under
to increase
15%,
wages,
that's gonna bring it in more than what this is.
I mean, depending upon what is chosen to do, it might bump them up to that point. But this would be for, any salary increases that we do would be for like current employees as of June 30th, you know, for this current, for next fiscal year. This would be for any newly starting employees. They would, like, let's say they start next December or something, they would start at these rates instead of the current rate that is set in, you know, HR module. So that's what this is about. This
Okay.
kind of doesn't really have anything to do with the raises per se.
This is essentially fixing the pay band and the pay scale, which is separate from the other consideration, which is a cost of living allowance.
Okay, I got you. This is a new higher start rate. Okay.
But they're not gonna be starting at a higher rate than the people that already work here.
Depends on the rate.
No, I don't wanna do that, you know,
No,
that's not
they're-
so
I
cool.
mean, no, because the current ones would be bumped up.
Okay,
If they're currently making the 1550, there's not that many of them. But I think there's one currently right now at the convenience center, and I think there's a couple of them over at the road shop. So that they would be bumped up, so that they would not be making less than somebody else starting out
okay.
there.
I show that there's 8 at the convenience center making less than 15. Yeah.
Yeah, so the other one at the convenience center, we would bump up 6 people to the 1483. So the total, including the FICA and the para increase at the convenience center, would be a little over $32,000. And then the total for, right now, currently for the road department would be an increase of about almost $2,500. And that would be to bump up the current, and then anyone starting new after this point would start at those wages.
So just a comparison, if you, just getting the aspect here, if you took RB's proposal, which was coming to the 15%, what would that bring those employees to that are under the 16? Would that bring their hourly rate up to?
I'd actually have to look at my workbook that has specific employees,
You
like
gotta
the
deal with
full
it.
spreadsheet. I just gave you all, yeah,
This,
I mean, but that would be for the current employees. So it doesn't address anyone starting new. Anyone starting new would still start at those older rates unless you approve for them to start at the new rates. And that's the other thing. So if you were to approve, for example, a 15%, then for the people who are already here, they would get the 15%. They wouldn't get just the bump up to the $16 or the $14.83. This is specifically for new people starting.
I understand the question on there.
Commissioner
But,
Mallory.
but, okay, you're still not, still not answering my question then, or nobody's answering my question. So, just a second, they went, if you give okay, at the convenience center, a guy's making 14, 12, 40, something like that. $14,
So
their
it's-
hourly
yeah.
rate is 14.1240. You give them a 15% raise, that's giving them $2
Right.
and 12 cents an
So
hour
if they're
raise.
making the $13.20,
No.
then it would push them up to $15.18. with a 15%. From $13.20 an hour, a 15% increase would put them up to $15.18. And then anyone else starting new would start at $14.83. And then for the $16 an hour,
Okay.
I'm sorry, $15.50. Those who are at $15.50 right now,
You're, okay.
a 15% raise. Oh, it's not
You
right.
have an employee right now at 14.1240, okay? And you give him a 15% raise, which is $2 and say 12 cents, which is gonna make that 16.24, 16.25. And then you're gonna start somebody coming in at 16?
No. Are you talking about for the CDL drivers?
No, I'm talking about for, okay,
The
this
transfer station-
one
the
person
transfer
right here,
station attendants are
Seth
currently at-
Anderson from the convenience center, he's
Yep.
making $14 an hour, 14.1240. We're talking about in another proposal at a 15% increase. 15% increase is $2 and say 12 cents, which is gonna make that person $16.25. But now you're gonna start somebody now at $16 an hour?
No, we're gonna
Well,
start,
that's what you just said a minute ago, or what they were suggesting.
okay, I think there's,
The transfer station attendants are currently at 13.20, or entry is 13.20, and the proposal is to take it to 14.83. And so current transfer station attendants, it appears, all of them are making $14.12, and the 15% would take them to 16.24. So they'd be making approximately $1 and some change above the entry level.
But I think that the entry level should be $16.
for the transfer station attendants?
Commissioners, can I interrupt? The gentleman you're looking at is not a CDL driver. So the 25-cent difference between the start rate that we're suggesting for the CDL drivers, yes, he'd be making a little bit more than a CDL driver start.
But,
But he has time
but he
here
has
at the
years
county,
there.
and he's accrued raises over the years.
right, but what I'm saying is what these two right here just said, they wanted to make the entry level at the convenience center and the road shop $16 an hour.
CDL drivers.
CDL driver,
Yes.
she said all,
No,
everybody.
No.
I don't want to do everybody, no.
That's where I'm going with
Yeah,
this.
okay.
Because it was, this person right here, and this is what his pay is the 14 whatever.
Yeah,
And that's like a slap in the face, it's been there for 5 or 6 years.
agreed.
But are we hiring anybody that wants to come work for $14 an hour?
My vegetation crew, they're making
Um,
$13.75, somewhere in there to start.
I think so.
And the two laborers are at $13.50, and I can always pick those up. It's the truck drivers I can't pick up. I think we suggested bumping them up a little bit for the laborer and the vegetation, and split the price on that just a little bit, because the vegetation guys have to be certified, but we weren't bringing them up to truck driver wages.
The only thing is, what I'm saying here, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
If you
I see it.
Start anybody today or tomorrow at $16 an hour. And then you give the 15, say we go the 15%, that's not right.
I agree. I see your point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we could go with the CDL for the 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that I don't have a problem with that, but if you bring everybody and then,
No, I was looking basically to start the laborers out at 14.83 or whatever.
Which I think that's what the vegetation specialists are making,
If you and I said-
1483.
Yeah.
That way we don't have employees jumping between departments. I irritate somebody or piss them off, they run over to Tom, you know? Just a possibility, you know?
It happens.
I know.
happened yesterday or whatever. So what are we gonna do on that then?
So,
Somewhere you gotta you gotta figure out if we're gonna do the 15%, if we're gonna do the proposal he proposed, then you gotta start there, and then you gotta figure out what your entry level is gonna be. Or you're gonna have more empty spots than what you have now.
Correct. The reason I went with the, I haven't talked to RB about numbers on this. When I proposed the $16 an hour and the 10%, the guys that I have now that are here just starting at $15.50, with that 10% raise, that would put them at $16.55 when the new wages went into effect. So a new driver would be starting at 16. A new driver that I've hired this year, when the fiscal year starts again, they would actually be $16.55. They'd be 55 cents more an hour than what the new hires were. I haven't done the numbers for the 15%, but
I still feel we need to get a set number on what we're gonna do with the existing employees, and then figure out what you're gonna do on your new hires.
which is what I did with the 10%, but the 15% would work also. And yes, I do have a gentleman that is non-CDL under my employment. He's my welder fabricator that, he just transferred into that department from a laborer's position. Would be making more than a CDL driver, but he also has more responsibilities than just a CDL driver.
And I understand there's gonna be situations
Yeah.
like that. A mechanic
Yeah,
maybe,
well, the mechanics are a breed under their own in that
Yeah.
shop.
so how do we need to start this then? Because I think you're starting it backwards. You need to figure out what you're gonna do with the existing ones, and then start your entry level. What are you gonna bring your entry level off, so you don't have a whole bunch of entry levels coming in?
Right, but if you approve of, for example, a 15% increase, then all of those existing personnel would receive 15%, which would bump them up above what that entry-level starting person would be.
Not if you just did what I was talking about. That's what I was trying to explain. If you bring a starting employee in at $16 an hour, and you gave an existing employee a 15% raise, all you did was put him at 25 cents more an hour than a guy starting. And that's not right. If he's been there 3 or 4 years or whatever, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but we need to figure out what our employees right now are gonna be at,
Well,
and then figure out where your entry level needs to balance out at that.
I think the difference is that we're talking about now the $16 for CDL drivers, so they're already making, what, I don't.
$15.50 for starting.
$15.50, so 15% of that is more than the $16.25. Then, so comparatively, the position.
And that's right, but I was going back to what y'all were wanting to do on the bringing people into an entry. And that's why I'm saying we need to figure out we're gonna set our basic deal, and then figure out where your entry people are gonna be. If you're going to give an incentive for your CDL drivers, that's fine. You can do that above and beyond the 15%.
Mhm.
I'm just using that number. But you're fixing to create heartburn with a lot of people if you don't start this out, everybody up to this level, and then figure out where your entry level's gonna be.
I'm okay with doing it that way.
So, for example, the CDL drivers that are currently making $15.50 an hour, if you give them a 15% increase, they would make $17.82 an hour. So that's $1.82 more than the $16, the starting wage for somebody new coming in.
Well, and that's right, but this CDL driver, how long has he been here? How long, there's stipulations coming with it. Just because you give him a 15% raise, everybody else is getting one. I mean, everyone's sitting beside you. So, again, you have to figure out what you're gonna bring your entry people into and adjust them. If you're trying to give an incentive for a guy to go get a CDL or to bring a guy in with a CDL to the county, then you've gotta give a little prize at the end of that price tag. That makes sense what I'm trying to say? Say whatever it is, you're saying it's 17 something an hour, and you were wanting to give a 50-cent an hour raise to, isn't that what you were wanting to do for CDL holders? From
To start.
15.50 to
Yeah.
a starting CDL holder? Okay, that's fine. So you bring There's your entry level right there for a starting CDL holder. This guy over here is still 17 something, but you're bringing this guy in at 16.
Right?
Okay, I understand that. But I still, when you take these other guys that are $14 an hour and what they were wanting to do a minute ago, that's not gonna work.
But they're a different position. They wouldn't,
I understand that, but you take that same position that guy's been doing and you bring a new guy in and you start him at just pennies underneath what he's been there for doing for, I don't know how many years.
I'm,
But if,
I don't know,
if
my,
we
my
have-
financial brain doesn't see it that way. I see it as being a bump up for everybody. So if you give a dollar per hour amount raise or percentage raise, those people who have been here, even if they're currently, like the guy currently making $13.20 an hour, just as an example, if you give them a 15% raise, they're gonna make $15.18 an hour. So they've already been here at $13.20. They're gonna get a raise to $15.18. A new guy coming in is gonna make less than that. It's gonna make $14.83. So in my mind, it is keeping those current employees above what that starting entry level amount is. So I guess I'm not understanding. I don't understand what you're saying.
The difference is that Commissioner Marquardt and Commissioner Barella are saying to bring the convenience center employees to 16 for their starting wage,
For all of them?
for the starting wage for all of them. I believe that is the
No,
proposal.
That doesn't
For the
make sense to me.
CDL.
Why would
For
you
the
start a
CDL.
laborer the same as a
But
CDL
at first
driver?
you were
Yeah.
talking about
First
all
they
of
said
them.
that, but now
Yeah.
CDL.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's where I've been trying to go with this. You can't, again, I still feel you need to get your, whatever you're doing, your raises, and then figure out what your entry level is gonna be. And if your
So you're
CDL
saying increase
drivers,
the entry level in more than the 1483 or 16 based upon what the raises are? Is that what you're saying?
no ma'am, let me finish. If you start, get your, whatever we're gonna do for a raise across the board, okay? And then if we're gonna give a 50 cent a raise to a CDL driver, that's another little price tag over here. And then figure out what your entry level is gonna be off of your raise that you're giving these other people.
Okay, so the current guys who are, for example, the CDL drivers who are currently making $15.50 an hour, if you choose to do an overall across-the-board raise, they're gonna get the overall across-the-board raise, not the 50 cents an hour raise.
Well, they're gonna get it, but if you're still gonna tack on the 50 cents.
No. No, we
Okay.
wouldn't tack on the 50 cents because at the point where, let's say they're getting, they would get either the 50 cents or the raise, whichever would be more. You know what I mean?
I understand that, but what he's trying to do is give an incentive price to the CDL drivers to try to get them to come to work. If you figure the 1550 and figure your, say the 15%, I'm just throwing that number out there, and you figure out whatever that is, okay? You're still not giving a CDL driver a incentive. Now, do you give the incentive after you get all your base numbers? I have to work with these type of people all the time, and if you gotta get a base salary, what you're paying, and if somebody comes in and they have a CDL license and a hazmat license and triples and doubles and all this, well, then they should be getting paid more than just your regular other guy.
That's
But-
up to, that's a
I
completely
understand that.
different conversation, I think.
But that's what he's trying to get for this 50 cents an hour incentive to get the CDL drivers to come to go to work.
Without giving me a name, can you give me how much one of these people make so I can do math that's a CDL driver? Please?
So Commissioner Mather, I think, so you're saying if we bring the CDL drivers from 1550 starting to 16, the existing CDL drivers need to be making something higher, right?
Yes.
All right, so if you were using the 15% example, the guys currently making 1550 would
Thank
be
you.
making 1782.
Thank you.
It's a $1.82 difference between entry and the current guy. Is that sufficient, or do you?
If you're given 50 cents an hour to a guy as a bonus for having a CDL to come to work, well then, it's only fair that you treat all those CDL drivers the same way.
Which Commissioner Matherly, we do. It doesn't, if a new guy walks in the door and he's got a Class A doubles, triples, tanker, hazmat endorsement, and a gentleman walks in with a Class B, they both start at $16 an hour. That's just the way the county has always done it.
Okay, but your guy that's been there forever driving that dump truck,
Okay, so right now, the guy that's been there forever, and I have a gentleman I just showed Amy that's been there for 10 years, he's making $20 an hour right now. So if he gets a 10% raise, that's another $2 on top of that. So, you know, I'm bumping up the new hires to 16, but he's also, this new gentleman that's been here for 10 years is getting a $2 raise.
well, and I don't have a problem with that. That's a working deal because there's a big deal, but if you take a guy that has been there working for, just starting, and he's been working for a while for the 1550, and then you bump him, a new guy that comes in tomorrow to 16. so-
Correct, but with the sprays.
But you're bringing him in at an entry level, I understand,
Yes,
if that's your
but
entry
the
level.
gentleman that's making $15.50 today, July 1, and I'll use 10% because the math's easier for me. July 1, that gentleman's going to be making $16.55, so 55 cents higher than the new hire.
I still feel that's,
So Commissioner
A little
Matherly, are you
slap in the
saying
face
that
to the guy that's
all
been
the
there.
current CDL drivers, regardless of what kind of salary increase you choose to do, if we're going to increase 50 cents an hour for the starting pay from 15.50 to 16, you're saying all the rest of those CDL drivers should receive a 50-cent increase and then whatever raises you choose on top of that?
Bingo.
Would that be?
it's,
You were wanting to say that, weren't you?
I've been biting my tongue. If you change the pay scale, entry-level pay scale, and you have employees under that pay scale, you bring everybody up to that pay scale, and then you apply your COLA or your increase. That way you don't screw up the scale or.
We
because
don't
the budget
really have a
doesn't
pay
fit.
scale, though, that's the problem. I mean, Sheriff's Office does now, because you guys worked hard to do that, but the rest of the county doesn't, it's kind of just whatever.
But that's-
So,
if
but
they're
yeah,
gonna set that
so
entry
if
level
that's,
at
if that's
16,
what you
bring
would like to do,
everybody
we can
that
certainly
and
do
apply
that. We can absolutely,
Well-
so all the CDL drivers would get a 50-cent increase, and then whatever raise you would choose to
Let's work it-
approve on top of that.
Let's work it the other direction. Let's work on the raises and then let's work on starting, just like you said. So we can figure out where we're at, because we haven't decided 10%, 15%, $1, anything yet, to know where we're at, to have the baseline of where entry needs to be.
yeah, I've been there. I know what it's like to be that guy that comes in or been there for a long time and then all of a sudden somebody hires somebody that, and he don't know
I understand too,
what,
I agree.
and he's making just pennies under me. I mean, it's very irritating.
So would that sound reasonable then, to do for all the CDL drivers, for anybody who is in one of these two positions, either a CDL driver or for the transfer station attendants, whatever that starting rate is, the difference between entry, the current entry, and, for example, the 1483, so that would be an additional $1.63 an hour, plus whatever raises you would
Well-
choose to do for,
I just want it fair for the people that've been here for a long time, because I want to keep them here.
right.
I don't want to slap them in the face and bring some new kid in here tomorrow that is almost making what they're making. Now, I understand that we're gonna get the wages up to get the new kids here, but we gotta keep our old timers here
Right.
also.
I agree.
And you gotta give them the incentive to work. So, as long as you make it fair all the way around, I don't have a problem with it, but don't do what they were fixing to do.
Okay, I just need to know what you want me to do, and I'm good with that.
Make the numbers. Make a decision.
I understand where you're coming from, Commissioner, I really do. And I mean, if we want to take the drivers that have started this last fiscal year that are at 15.50, that have not gotten a raise yet, if you want to bring them up to the 16, and then, again, I'll say the 10%, then add the 10% onto that, that's fine too. I mean, that way they're a little bit happier, like you're saying,
That would bump everybody up the same amount. I mean,
Now, are
not
you
the same
saying
amount, but, you know.
Just the drivers for this last year, or all your CDL drivers?
Well, no, you'd have to give all your CDL drivers a 50-cent
Right, okay.
raise, and then.
Then
do
I would
your-
It's
agree
gotta
to
be
that.
fair across the board.
Yes,
In my eyes.
yes.
Otherwise,
So that, the CDL driver portion of it is, we have an understanding at this point.
So-
Now, what about the labor positions?
Well,
That's a bigger jump.
and you gotta be real careful here because you're gonna take people that've got these other certifications, they've got, maybe it's not like a CDL driver, but that's a little certificate thing, and then you take the other ones that's got it, you're opening up a big can of worms.
which is one of the things Julianne and I worked on. We put the vegetation department just, what was it, 50 cents higher? I do believe it was 50 cents above what my laborers were. You know, yes, they have to test, they have to get a certification for it. You know, we pay for the testing, unlike the CDLs where the drivers have to do their own deal. But they do have to be certified for the vegetation, so we bump those 50 cents higher than what the actual laborers were starting at.
And I understand the big deal of your CDLs, and your two departments are a major factor. But just don't irritate the ones that you do have where they go,
Exactly.
because they can walk across the street, they can go to Mesa Verde, they go anywhere around town.
Across the
And you
street.
know, exactly they will, if you irritate them like that.
Oh, I do my best to irritate them anyways, but.
The thing is, we have to require a certain amount of work out of them. If I have one driver that runs 5 times to the landfill and back, and I have a driver that runs 3 times to the landfill and back, I am going to be on the guy who drives 3 to the landfill. Where you been? What are you doing? Where are you stopping?
Which that comes
So
into,
In their
irritate
lives,
that one that drives
when they
5
get mad.
times and see what happens.
well, that entails with why some of my drivers are making, you know, 10-year driver versus 10-year driver. I've got one that's making $2 more an hour than the other one because the last couple of years, he's gotten merit raises.
Right.
And the other one's getting a percentage. And I am a firm, you know, Commissioner Griffin, when he was in here, he and I discussed that too. You know, merit raises have their place, and that's when you run into that
Right,
scenario.
and I brought that up years ago, that merit increases seem to be put on the wayside, and everything's a COLA. Where people who excel are paid the same as people who do the bare minimum.
That's it.
So the incentive part of it is hard to supervise, because now they all know it's a across the board deal versus I excel, I come in early, I do more than everybody else, and I don't get ahead. You know,
And I
there's a
agree with that.
balance there.
I agree with that 100%.
And then we had last year a department head that only wanted to give one person $1 raise and then next people $15. And, I mean, then you have kind of a discrimination kind of thing in other departments, I wouldn't say. But, so I don't know, and I'd give merit raises, so I definitely agree with that. But how do you do it in such a big,
And I'm not sure how Ralph does it. I know once a year, once every 6 months, I try to bring my whole crew through my office and do an evaluation on how they're doing. And I have that in their folder, you know, and if they are subpar, okay, this is where you guys need to improve on, you know, and if I have, you know, an employee that's going above and beyond, like Ralph says, showing up half hour early, making sure his truck's ready and everything else, yeah, okay. And again, that's why I've done merit raises in the past. This year, what my goal was is to get everybody up, including Ralph's drivers, up to where we can compete, maybe not with Mesa Verde or, you know, any of the other big trucking companies, but at least we can compete against NMDOT. You know, puts us right in the ballpark with them.
That way they can rotate with all three of you.
That's happened. I've got a few drivers that have left to go to NMDOT, so.
So for example, when I worked at the hospital, they had a merit-based system where it's based upon quantitative measurable items. Each department has their own specific thing that they do, and they come up with specific items or measurements for, that they can quantitatively say, okay, we, like for finance, we posted this many invoices, or we did this or that. Basically, what it comes down to is each department has their own items that they would do. If they reach the same level that they did the previous year, they would just receive no merit increase. If they went over and above it by a certain percentage, they would receive an additional, I don't know how much, percentage, or 50 cents an hour or something like that. And there was like a couple, two or three levels above that flat level where they could, if they really, really succeed and really do well, they could make an additional, I don't know, certain percentage or dollar amount. The only problem with that is that if it is based upon a department, you're gonna have some people in the department that are not gonna do anything, and then the overachievers are gonna be the ones to bring everybody up. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, but at least that is a way to quantitatively measure, you know, merit and what's going well. You could do it on an individual basis, you could do it on a department basis, but that would probably be something that we would need to discuss and maybe implement countywide, just so that everybody has that opportunity for merit increase. Yes, ma'am.
Commissioners, 10 years ago, we were doing evaluations in every department. The board itself was not approving any merit raises unless evaluations were completed by department heads. At some point, the commissioners started throwing that to the wayside. They were handing out merits with and without evaluations and going to COLAs. Most departments don't do evaluations anymore. But it is quantitative. You can go on, it's scored, we have the forms. You can look at a percentage, who's gonna score higher in a merit percentage-wise. But as the commission started going to COLAs, department heads didn't see a value in those merits as much. Some still do it, but not all. Doesn't fix it for this year because you don't have any evaluations to look at.
That could be consideration. I mean, something that Gerald said last meeting, you know, we're gonna be giving raises. Next year may not be an option, but maybe we could implement the evaluation system for next year in case those raises, we need to address it then and just do it merit-based.
If you make a statement this year at the end of your budget to say next year there will only be raises with evaluations.
And I agree with that. One, cause I'm all about the merit raise deal. If the guy works hard, he needs to be compensated for it. If he's just skates along on somebody else's, he needs to stay right where he's at. But I agree with RB on his proposal after looking at the graphs at where our wages are. And then, again, I'm just going back to the 15%, that's only gonna bring you up to the 2020 pay rate or pay rate. And it's already 3 years later and we're already in the hole again, but, I don't want an employee from Otero County having to work and they still have to go and try to get food stamps and stuff like that to feed his family. If you're working a 40-hour job, you shouldn't have to do that. But, man. That's just my 2 cents, and they ain't worth much.
Well, what I think is basically getting through this year, setting a standard, and going forward and getting more structure in our departments and evaluations and everything else. So we have a base to go off of versus one department versus another department. We need more structure to go off of and goals to achieve. That way we can go back to our employees and push this as this is the way we're gonna move things forward. We're gonna do evaluations. This is what's gonna be based off of, and there will be, not guaranteed, but probably merit increases that go along with this. And if you just do the standard, well, then you do the standard and you stay where you're at. But we have to have more structure, because right now, every department is so much different. And I know there's a reason for that, but
So do you have a structure form or a merit
we
form
have-
for
yes, we
every
do.
department?
Well, they're all the same for all the departments, and then as the department head, you can individually select goals, things they need to achieve within the next 6 months, within the next year. You can then look at last year's evaluation to see if they accomplished what they set out to do or what you had asked them to do. So yes, it is very structured evaluation.
but we would have to tweak each department a little bit, because
There-
my administrative goals aren't gonna meet with my labor type goals.
Well, and again, there's
Exactly.
that section there where you can individually select goals. You can add your own.
Okay.
It's gonna be, each department head is gonna have to develop their own with an incentive and then bring it to us to see if we can
Well,
even.
you won't see the evaluations, but they can bring a
No,
score sheet
no,
to
what
show
they're
you how they.
proposing.
Yeah,
You know, if it's a 10 cents, 50
Yeah.
cents, or whatever it is, to make sure, and then go over with Julianne to where it's even budgetable.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that, and that should be the way it is, but I wanna get the people up to where they need to be.
I do too.
And if we get rid of Tom's blade he's got coming in, that, well, we'll take that.
Thanks, Ralph.
But
Trade it out with David's cars.
Yeah.
we could take that money he got for them cars and throw it in this pot. No. Okay, so where do we need to start here then? I'm back to square one.
Yeah.
Yep. I think we need to talk about what we're gonna give as raises and then bring them up to the base, start up from there.
I hear all these cell phones rattling off, and everybody around here's, I'm sure, getting little messages on what they think, but
Tell them this.
Maybe.
so where do you want to start?
I don't know that that's my decision. That would probably, I would entertain, suggestions from the department heads. They're the ones who, have these people as their employees. And so, I mean, if you want to, I don't know, do you want to use the 50 cents? Give all the CDL drivers a 50-cent increase and then whatever raises on top of that? Or do you want to make it a 25-cent increase? Or, I mean, and like Ralph said, the difference between the transfer station current entry rate of $13.20 to the proposed entry rate of $14.83, that's an additional $1.63, so that's a lot larger. Maybe you give them, the current ones, $1, and then whatever raises on top of that, and then the new people would start at the $14.83. I don't know that it's my place necessarily to decide that.
Well,
Because currently what is in here, what Pamela and I had discussed as far as the salaries, originally, all of those department requests were in the budget. But what we did for the purpose of this, so that you could see, I took them all out. Everybody is flat at what they currently make now, and it's rolled over into '24. And so you can see from, I have two separate sheets. One of them is like a cost of living adjustment, a percentage increase. The other one would be a flat wage dollar per hour increase. And it's actually gonna be the second page, that actually includes all the elected officials as well. The very, very bottom line would show you how that would increase the overall budget. And also, just remember, most of these departments are within the general fund, but property valuation, detention, road, the TVRDA, HIDA, all of those, anything, DWI, anything that does not say GF or general fund in front of it, they're separate departments. So that entire hit is not going to be to the general fund. I probably should have split it out so you could see, this is general fund, these are the other individuals. But you'll see the overall amounts based upon whether it's a dollar per hour increase or a percentage per hour increase. So, like I said, what's currently in there is flat. So any of these increases, we would add to what is currently there.
I think one way to keep it simple would be, you've got the detention center, the road department, and solid waste all asking for starting wages to be changed. So if you're good with their request and want to grant that, I would set that as a baseline, and then start considering the various options for the COLA increase that'll apply to everyone, and then specifically look how it's going to affect the people where the starting wages are being changed. And on those positions, you can potentially tweak that somehow so that you believe the starting wage increase and whatever proposed salary increase applies to everyone. You can do additional tweaks to those small amount of positions to make it where you believe it would be fair in those certain positions.
That makes sense.
Certainly, if you do the, grant the starting wage changes, and say you were only to grant 5% COLA, then that would have a significant difference between where the current employee is and the new starting employee. So that would definitely be disparate in that situation. So you would absolutely want to, in those positions, add an additional $1 or $2 or some percentage to make sure that that was fair. But I would target those specific areas rather than getting too lost in looking at everything.
So you don't think we should start at what we're gonna do, the COLA raise across, if we go with your proposal and then figure out what that's gonna back
Yes.
down to?
Yes, that's what he would,
I
Yeah.
think, I think you should, but I do that with the, figuring in the increase in starting wage that they're wanting. If you're good with that, already build that into your review for what you do for everyone as a whole.
Yeah, figure that in before you add on whatever percent.
Yes, make that your baseline.
Yeah.
So, so all CDL drivers are gonna be making 16. And now we're considering what we're doing with everyone else. All right, a 5% increase for everyone else, good, let's see what it does for the CDL drivers. Okay, it only brings the current CDL drivers up to 16. All right, that's not good. So for CDL drivers, we're gonna do an additional 10% or 50 cents to make this fair.
What do you want to do?
Okay, so just talking to Ralph, if we took everybody and we're gonna take our starting wages and everybody we have right now, bump them up 50 cents. You know, laborers, drivers, everybody, just bump them up to 50 cents. That gets the starting pay to 16, other than the laborers, and I'm gonna say, what are the average laborers starting at now?
your laborers, I think, 1350-ish?
All right, so your starting labor is gonna bump up to 14. And then if y'all decide to do a percentage on top of that, the new drivers, the old drivers, everybody's already got that 50-cent raise to leapfrog up to the 16 along with the laborers, and then whatever percentage on top of that, if you decide to do any, that would make it a fair raise across the board for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
So the person you have for 1483,
Sorry.
the person you have that's making 1483,
Mm-hmm.
add 50 cents.
Add 50 cents to
and
him.
Let's say 15%, that puts them up to 1763 an
Mhm.
hour.
Yeah.
And then starting CDL 16,
But this gentleman that you're looking at's already been here, has already certified, he's been, you know, for what he's doing, granted, he's not a CDL employee, but he's already been here for 2 years. He's, you know, he's gotten his raises, plus his certification, he knows how the system works. I'm not denying there are gonna be laborers that are gonna make more than starting drivers, I understand that. You know, but there again, you know, and we had that one employee that was here for 37 years, was making more than my foreman, you know, on the same grounds.
but you have to reward loyalty and
Exactly.
everything else.
You know. I mean, a lot of what we're trying to do, and Commissioner Hadley understands it too, is we're trying to get rid of that revolving door. And, you know, we've got to get into some competition here, you know, granted, can't compete against business and don't want to compete against them.
Would it be helpful if we put the various spreadsheet proposals on the big screen, and that way whoever puts someone at the computer that can manipulate it and move it, like you say, add $2 here, we can all see what $2 there
That
does.
would be fantastic.
My sheet's getting messy.
I
I know.
I don't have one,
There's
so
just-
I don't
there's
have
just
any
so
way to
many.
do that. So, unless we can send the file.
I can send it, or I can, or- doing math in public is not fun. Try to avoid it.
I'm doing it as fast as I can. I do think I like that idea, just let's address detention road and convenience center with the COLA and get that out of the way. I like that. So I think what we're debating right now is a matter of adding 50 cents plus COLA or not, right? Is that what where we're at?
Well, the COLA is not in the picture, it's the 50 cents an hour for the CDL drivers is what you're,
Well, this was to make it, like you're saying, to make it fair across the board for every employee we have, basically from laborer and Class A drivers. You know, so that I'm not doing 50 cents for that and then a percentage for everybody else. You know, he brought it up, bring everybody up to 50 cents, and then if you want to do a percentage on top of that, that's fine. You know, because that puts everybody on the same playing field. You know, the new drivers are starting at 16. The drivers that are making 15.50 now are going to be 16 plus the percentage.
no, I don't have a problem with that. But this is gonna snowball through every department through here, I can,
All I can say for every department, and this is me speaking for me, is Ralph and I have to get certified drivers.
I understand that part,
You
by
know.
law.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have no choice. We have to get certified drivers. Our guys are out there running equipment. Our guys are out there at 2 a.m, you know, dealing with stuff. You know, it is not and I'm not putting anybody's office jobs down. It's just, we're out there. And I know what some of these other departments have requested, and I know what some of these other departments make. And, you know, my guys know too, and so does his, you know.
Because if I had it here somewhere. Because that 15, if you went with the 15%, if we went that route, that's $1,951,000 budget line versus at the increase from the flat rate of what we are now.
Correct. And the 15%, now, don't get me wrong, that's a great number. Now, I wasn't even looking for anywhere near that aspiration. That's why I was looking for a 10%, you know.
Am I reading that right, Julianne?
I'm sorry, what was the question? So the 15%,
Coming off your chart right there.
yeah, if you look at the second page, which would include an increase for the elected officials,
So you see-
a 15% cost of living
That's the
adjustment
increase
would
over
add
that right there.
about $2,050,000 overall, the entire budget.
We're doing all right.
Yeah, that's basically what we talked about.
And the amount that would be comparable to that, in a flat wage increase would be about $3.25 an hour. And that would be 2,026,000. It'd be a little bit less doing it that way.
And Julian, that's for every employee in the county, correct?
What's that?
That was for every employee in the county?
That would be for every employee. And then for your specific, like the drivers and the laborers or the transfer station attendants, then we would choose either, additional 50 cents an hour for all of them, or something to keep it fair going forward for those particular positions. And I guess that's the question as to what that dollar amount would be. Would it be an additional 50 cents for all of them? Would it be, I don't know.
You said that 2,049,000, that was with the elected officials.
That's at
and
15%.
And the 15%.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what do you want to see on this? The 15%? So if you go to the, okay, this is the flat wage increase, the 325 is the one that's comparable to a 15%. And then if you go back over, bring it all the way back over, you can filter it by department. So you filter by, let's say, road department. You want me to go over this?
Sure.
Spreadsheets are probably. Need a keyboard?
This meeting?
That phone screen?
Oh, I don't know.
Still hard to see.
Yeah,
It's all public knowledge.
We filter it by.
It's all public
Yeah,
knowledge.
they can look at these anyway. You know.
So these are all the operators, and their current wages.
Commissioners, can you see that, or is that too small?
I don't know,
Pretty small.
Yeah.
We can zoom it.
A bit more. I still can't see it.
So, yeah.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, I put it in there. That's okay. I mean, actually,
Hide those, there you go.
so you're gonna see, this is their current for these positions. This date isn't correct, it's not formatted properly. This is what they're currently making. I guess we could,
Those dates are
So-
the higher dates.
some of those are laborers, they got, because operator was in there, let's take the laborers out. So these are the guys, there's two of them currently making $15.50. If we were to give them a $3.25 an hour increase, they'd be making $18.75. And then anyone else coming in would be making $16. But that would be everybody across the board getting $3.25 an hour. So if you wanted to start them at, say, 16, then it would bump them up. Like if you put them to 16, added that, 50 cents to all of them, I mean, we could do that for all of them, added 50 cents to all of them and see what it would do. Plus adding the $3.25 on top of that,
Or were we talking about,
Oh,
that's
you
just,
know what, it's
you're
not,
just
it's
talking
not
about
changing
doing
this,
the
it's not
CDL
changing
drivers,
the,
Julianne,
not
just your
changing.
drivers
yeah. let me
on the
take that
50
out.
cents.
It's the way that this is set up. Because this is not a formula in here. So it's taking this amount based upon that. And then multiplying it times that, so, yeah. If we look at the, is a percentage one in here as well? I don't know. The percentage
It is,
spreadsheet?
yeah.
I don't know where it would be.
They're on the desktop behind the window. I opened them all, so.
Okay. So this would be the percentage. Yeah. Oh, let me do this. So then they'd make the 1782. But, I mean, I'm not really sure what you want to see.
I think that looks better.
It should be based on that.
325 across the board, not adding 50 plus.
If we add, 50 cents to all of these, we have to calculate it out by department probably. I mean, I don't know that I want to try and do that right here, right now, but you can see that. So a 15% increase, the $15.50 an hour operators would move up to 1782.
But you're not gonna give a
With the
50-cent increase to everybody. You're only talking about your drivers, your CDL drivers. That all we're talking about is the 50 cent. on
Well, the way we were talking earlier was everybody from labor to Class A driver, bump them up 50 cents, and then whatever percentage you were talking.
But at 325, that's a pretty good range.
That's a huge raise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't need to add 50 cents.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to do yeah, other than you're gonna just do the starting pay up 50 cents, if you're just doing a flat dollar raise, yes.
It actually saves money doing it 325 versus 15%.
And that, is that the 15%? Is that what that, she's figuring? How are you figuring to get the 15%?
The 325 she's referencing is instead of doing it 15% for everyone, you do 320, was 325? Yeah,
$3.25 would be an overall similar budget hit. Then everyone would move up instead of a percentage base where people who currently make more, 15% of, 50,000 is more than 15% of 30,000, right? So if everyone gets $3.25 an hour, then everybody would move up exactly the same regardless of what you make. But you could still, for those positions that you would approve of the starting wage change for those three departments, we could choose to give them an additional increase on top of the, like, 325.
I would go for that versus, yeah, I would make more money personally on the 15%, but that's not what we're looking at. I'm looking at bringing in people and getting people to stay and being 100% manned versus the people making more money, making more money.
Right.
You know, we're trying to get the base set, so people wanna come here. People wanna work here. So, yeah, it would be less for me, but it would be a lot better for my initial hires. And they would be able to, like you say, support the families a little better than where they're at now.
So I think we should take road shop, convenience center, add 50 cents to CDL drivers only, and then, I was using 325 as reference, but I was mistaken, it's $3 is what you have written here for comparison. So then the $3 were an hour straight across board for those two departments. And that's still, I think that's more fair of a raise, so that we're not giving the higher paid more. And I think that, it gets us up to living wages for those two departments. So we're competitive. And we're still saving money rather than a percentage straight across the board.
What about the other starting wage changes that are requested? Those
For
two?
CDL.
Just CDL.
Just CDL, $16 an hour, just CDL starting.
So not the convenience center to 1478 or whatever they're asking?
CDL only,
Okay.
right?
No, we were looking for laborers to be bumped up from 1320 to 1487 to match the road shops, bringing in their laborers at,
Well, those two at the 1480 are the weed guys, they're not the regular
okay,
laborers.
what are your regular laborers?
13,
I
yeah, it's like 13.
I wanna be just competitive
But if we're
with
gonna bump those,
internal departments.
those two up another 50 cents an hour is what we were talking, you know, for the vegetation and for the laborers.
You think, I mean, we're gonna be handpicking these positions, 50
Well-
cents, you get 50 cents, and you get $3.
Well, no, we're saying for the start,
Okay, okay.
just to start pay.
Right,
Bring
not
our,
existing.
bring our laborers, his and my laborers up 50 cents an hour, the vegetation guys up 50 cents an hour, the CDL drivers up 50 cents an hour for starting pay.
And the detention center's also asking for an increase for 3 positions for starting pay.
$2 an hour for each of them.
And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to throw another wrench at you. The sheriff and undersheriff and I did speak yesterday, and so these raises we're discussing would apply to the non-bargaining unit employees at the sheriff's department. And so their request specifically for their department was that you just do a 7% increase for them if you choose to do an increase, because that is the increase that is currently negotiated with the bargaining unit, and that would keep the sheriff's department pay band equal and at the settings that they've worked very hard to set up. So figure that into the total cost too. That would be less than what some of these calculations show and everything.
So are you, okay, I understand on the truck drivers, the CDL deal, but you're talking about another pay increase to every county employee across the board? Or are we
That
only
was-
talking about these 2 departments?
Right now, I'm fighting for our 2 departments.
Everybody else on their own.
I think Julianne was saying $3 across the board, correct?
For what?
$3 across the board for every employee.
It would, so what's comparable to a 15% would be about $3.25 an hour. But yeah, I mean, it's,
And that's for every
That would be for
Otero County
everybody,
employee.
everyone would get that. But then for those positions, if you approve the starting pay to be increased, then, as RB was saying, you might want to look at those positions and see if all of the CDL drivers would need to be increased, like 50 cents an hour, plus whatever other.
So,
If we're
So
doing-
I know, we're just kind of
if
going in
we're-
circles.
If we're doing the 325, I'm not
I
sure
don't
if we're
think
doing
it's an
3 or
issue.
325.
If you're doing a flat wage increase across everybody, then everybody's gonna move up the same.
I don't see doing a 50 cent on
Right.
top of that. I don't see doing that.
Right, and
I think it would be only if you did a percentage, especially if you
Yeah.
did a lower percentage, then it might affect those drivers a little bit more.
so your employee that has 1483 right now, at a $3 increase, they'd be 1783. And then starting, if that person was to, a CDL driver, $16 an hour.
yes, that's the way I was
Yeah.
looking at it.
Yeah.
So Julianne, can you get us a number? Okay, we did $3 across the board hourly people. And then you brought in the elected people to the
Yeah,
2018.
$3 an hour across the board
Where would that
with the
bring us
elected
to
officials.
on
would
our
be-
budgetary number?
Yeah, that would be 1,879,000
Well, that's
total.
cheaper than the 1,900,000.
For everybody to get a
or something.
$3 an hour increase. But that also includes the sheriff's office, because I put everybody in there, so,
So it would go down a little bit,
yeah.
quite a bit, probably.
Um, Elected official raises, let's just get that out. The decision that we make today doesn't become into effect until January 2025. So, as any business owner knows, employees get fed before the owners get fed. And we don't know what is to come next year. So this decision for elected officials increases can be made next year. And I make a motion that we table the discussion of elected official raises until next year.
We could do that, because it doesn't take effect anyway, so, see where we're at.
That's true, I mean, because essentially that's, yeah, that's including the elected officials, so you're really looking at the first page, which is gonna be less of a hit.
Okay.
Because you're right, it's not gonna happen until fiscal year '25, and it's only 6 months of fiscal year '25 that is going to be an effect on the budget. So for 2024, regardless of whether or not the elected official increases are approved, you're really just looking at all of the other departments, all of the other employees. And so $3 an hour, it's actually 1.78 million. 3.25, 1.9 million, and then it would be fairly comparable looking at the percentage increases, but I know it sounds like you're more in tune with doing $1 an hour, because then it's fair all the way up.
Okay, the only problem I have with that is, I'm gonna use myself as an example. When I thought about running as an elected official, it wasn't about the money, but you get into a sheriff, you get into a treasurer, you get into, they may be thinking about this a year, year and a half, 2 years before. So if you're thinking about what they're going to be salary-wise, you may even get a sheriff from another county come.
True.
You may get somebody from somebody else that, it needs to be out there
True.
to where
I mean,
it's
yes,
not
you,
gonna happen until
right, exactly.
the
You can
next
certainly
election.
make that
But it
decision
needs,
now.
if somebody's planning
but it would,
on,
exactly, and then, anyone who's running for those positions would know that it will increase.
Yeah.
Whereas if you wait until 25, they might choose not to run, I mean, without knowing that. I don't know what the cutoff date is for,
It would be March of next year.
right, so you might want to make that decision now.
I would say yes, just so they would know if anybody was gonna
Exactly.
wanna come and run, they would know what the whole picture.
I don't know when anybody else from a different county coming because of the rates. They were losing why we were supporting our
Well,
county and fighting for our county.
If somebody is gonna come and run and there's opportunity, I say more people the better it is, with better choices, but you got, anybody that's even thinking about it, they need to know what it is. And like I say for the sheriff, there's people in the sheriff department that make more money than him, and that's not right, but.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
I didn't even know how much a commissioner got paid when I was running. I had no
No.
idea, didn't care.
But there's different departments that do. That's their main job.
You have two main jobs now.
I think it needs to be thrown out there, and it's not, you're not spending it for 2 years, but anybody planning on running, they're gonna have the whole picture. This is what it pays.
Yep.
If you don't like it, don't run for it.
I think our economy is unstable and that we can't make promises a year from now what's gonna be happening.
Well, yeah, the economy is unstable. When you look at it like that, you shouldn't be giving $3 an hour raises either.
The,
The difference is employees versus management versus, just like I said, how many times have you gone, Gerald, without feeding yourself versus making sure your employees got fed? This is the same situation.
It is, but this is also a planning deal. The leaders of the county that needs to be, you're not paying them now. And it could come up next year and we could change this again next year. You're gonna go through budget again, you could change it again.
Mind, I don't want to do that. Let's, once we vote on it and say, oh, never mind, we don't have the money for it, we're going to take it back. That's
definitely
not-
politically, it wouldn't be,
Right?
you know, it looks sketchy.
Right.
I would say that, with any, countywide, government, raise that you decide today, you are to funded committing to doing the GRT increase that we discussed. And so if you did the full 3/16, that's a 2.25 million, annual, influx to the budget. So that is what you're considering, the amount you'll have with what this could potentially do to the budget. So, and the elected official pay is less than $100,000 a year on that.
So on July 1st, sales taxes go down 0.25%. Is that?
I
or
think it's
is it
another 8%.
8%.
8%.
Yeah.
And we could choose to continue that 8% at a regular meeting if we wanted to, just to continue that income, right? And that wouldn't be raising GRT taxes, it would just be continuing it.
Right, except, I'm sorry, it would not go into effect until January 1st because we missed the deadline for it to go into effect as of July 1st.
Okay, and, because Otero County, or was it Alamogordo, I can't remember which I looked up, is the 8th highest in the state as far as GRT taxes already. So that's something to look at. Is that? Alamogordo, okay, okay.
Yeah, Otero's not, they're down,
Not bad.
quite a bit down.
Well, this decision would make a straight across the board for Alamogordo and the county, right? It would not be 8% for the city sales tax?
The county rate is going to be going down to like 6.0625% as of July 1st, down an 8%. I think one of the reasons that Otero County's gross receipts tax rate is higher is because we have so much federal land and we don't have like the gas and oil revenue or some other revenues that other counties might have. And so I think that's why our gross receipts tax is a little higher.
But so the state GRT will go down by an 1/8 in July. If we were voted to raise the county GRT, I believe this column is the one that is county-wide, not just the unincorporated areas. Is that correct? I don't have that chart in front of me.
So, yeah, the one that is to do it county-wide, I believe that's the one that we have the 3/16 available. And that would be all across the county, including the incorporated areas of Alamogordo, Cloudcroft, Tularosa. Yes, so that would be a little bit larger amount that we would receive. And yeah, like you mentioned, the 3/16, we could do up to 3/16 without doing a referendum, and that would net approximately 2.25 million from what I recall. I don't have it in front of me either.
Because I don't think we necessarily.
We wouldn't have to do the full 3/16, you know, I mean, we could do 1/8.
And then it depends on the amount they're proposing for GRT increase. Well, do we have to get state approval or not? If we do 1/8, we don't have to have state approval, but if we go to the 3/16, we have to have state approval. Is that, did I read that correctly?
If we go to the quarter.
Regardless, we have to have tax and revenue approval.
Mhm.
But
But
it's-
if you vote on it, I don't see why they would not approve it.
Right.
As long as there's a
Right, we just-
procedure that you
Essentially,
follow.
what they need is they need for us to have an approved ordinance in place and sent to taxation and revenue no later than September 30th in order for it to be effective as of January 1st. So long as we're within the allowable amount that we have available and we have the approved ordinance and they have all the documentation, there's really no reason, you know, why they would.
Because we
Say
have
no.
the 3/16 already approved, we've just never implemented it, right?
It's available, it's the way it's written, we don't have, that's not one that we have to take to a referendum to a vote. It's one that you can decide to do.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think the budget though, at least doing it smartly, has the capacity for any of these raises unless we do that. Is that correct?
It would be tight. It would be pretty tight if we did it, if we did not increase the gross receipts tax. I mean, the other thing that I've mentioned in the past too is the fact that that 8% hold harmless gross receipts tax that we currently are using to pay the debt service for the detention center. Once the initial bond that we got from 2017, once that is paid off in 2028, that 1/8% sunsets, it goes away. So we're gonna have to come up with, I mean, we're gonna have to continue paying the debt service on the 2020 portion. There's a 2020 series bond that we also received, and that is currently being paid from that 8% as well. We're gonna have to pull from the other 1/4%, which is sort of the general operating 1/4%. It's gonna have to cover both of those. Right now, it's only covering the debt service from the original 2014 series bonds, which was for general operating purposes. So if you were to implement an additional increment of gross receipts tax for general operating purposes, it could also be used to pay debt service. You could use it for salaries, you could use it for capital, you could use it for debt service. It could be used for anything. So if we needed to draw upon it, we could for the debt service.
So if the state's going down 1/8, and if we go up 1/8, then there's no change for the taxpayer. It's just be paying the same amount that we're
And
paying.
The
they-
only
they went
issue
down
is
an
there-
8 last year too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it did. And I'm not sure if she's, if that's supposed to continue for the next couple of years. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
The only thing is there would be a 6-month period where the tax rate would be lower, and then it would go back to what it was as of right now, as of January 1st. But essentially, you know, people are pretty used to paying that at this point, so.
We have time to consider that, so, but I think.
Yeah, and that's not much of an increase or decrease in what you pay in the
Right.
taxes. It's pretty
Less than a quarter.
way, yeah.
I think I'm leaning towards the $3 an hour straight across the board.
I know people could sure use it right now. What are you thinking?
I mean, that's fine going across the board like that, but I still think you need to implement in the elected part just so it's known. I mean, it ain't gonna affect me, I'm not running, but somebody is gonna run, they at least know what they're gonna, if it's a full-time job, it's gonna need to know what it's gonna pay.
And the vote on that, it's on the agenda for next Thursday, if you want to do that or not do it.
So my motion is no good because we're not making any decisions, okay?
But you can give staff direction to build it in the budget.
If you do the $3 across the board, you're coming in less than what the 15% was anyway, so that's a little savings.
Well, and it helps a lot of people that are not making very much money. That's a huge increase. I mean, that is the big raise. I think I'm in favor of doing that. And then we'll have to do the 7% for the SO.
For the sheriff's office,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, you could choose to do that for everyone, but then it's a percentage again. So,
Mhm.
and then we'd be back to looking at how that would affect those positions, so.
So 7% SO and $3 for everybody else.
Mhm.
So unfair.
I know, it doesn't sound fair.
Let me just, as far as the percentages, I know RB and I talked about the 7% and everything, because that's what the union body had negotiated. The pay structure we have built at the SO,
Mhm.
percentages are difficult with that. I've got basically a pay structure where you come in, this is what you're gonna get. You be there, you get certified, you're gonna get an increase. You get, through your FTO, you're gonna get an increase. In so many years, we've got it built all the way up. At a 7%, the lower guys, they're gonna get less. The guys that have been there for 20 years, they're gonna get a huge raise. I would prefer, if at all possible, to come up with a dollar amount and make it fair and equitable across the board for everybody.
So that would work with the union if we did your guys at $3 an hour too, just like everybody else?
Oh, yeah, that would, I mean,
I think that's over 7%.
that's
Oh, yeah.
over 7%.
Yeah.
And that's still okay
With the union? I
I,
can't imagine them saying, we don't like this idea.
It's in the union.
Yeah.
that, I just think we need to, for my department, we need to stick to a dollar amount.
Yeah.
Instead of a percentage, like I
Yeah.
say, because we got guys there 1 year making $1 an hour, and we got guys 20 years, they're gonna make $3 an hour, just something like that.
Yeah.
That disparity is there. I would much rather try to stay within that pay scale and make it, whatever dollar amount is agreed upon, I would prefer it be a dollar amount.
Okay.
So 50, I just grabbed one, I want to remember which one I grabbed, it's $2.60 raise. Who did I grab? And it's $3 raise, it's actually higher,
Mhm.
but the union will be okay with that.
Yeah, they're not gonna have an issue with getting more money.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that. It's totally up to y'all.
Yeah.
With all that union whack.
I think if you went to that, they could have a vote on it tomorrow, and they would pass it with flying colors. I don't think they'd have an issue with
They'd
it.
pass it and
So,
have a beer.
Yes.
And I definitely want to give them.
I do too. Yeah, I thought it was tied into the union, so I want them to
Well, and I
be
think that's
included.
kind of what the negotiation was, but nothing has been voted on by the union, been ratified. I mean, it's totally up to y'all. If we can,
Yeah, I want it to be fair for everybody, and they certainly deserve it. So Julianne, can you include them in? Are they already included in, aren't they?
So what we were just kind of looking at is, so if we stuck with the 7% for the sheriff's office, if you wanted to do something similar for the rest of the county, but do a dollar amount instead of a percentage, it'd probably be, and I don't know, I didn't calculate it out. It's hard to do because you've got part-time and full-time mixed in here, so you can't just apply a straight across the board. But it would probably be approximately $1.50 an hour for everyone else, would be similar to the cost of what a 7% raise would be. That's what I'm guessing. And I'm sorry, I missed probably part of what you were saying. Were you saying that a percentage increase is a good thing or a bad thing for?
not good for us, not with
Okay,
the
you
pay
would prefer
scale.
a dollar.
I prefer $1.
Okay. And
across
if they
the board.
haven't ratified that agreement, I mean, I guess could,
Yeah, they could, instead of the 7% they currently have negotiated, they could change it to $3 if you did $3 for, because the bargaining unit only applies to, well, sergeant and above is not part of the bargaining unit, and admin staff. So if you voted a $3 raise countywide, they would get that. And then the bargaining unit, I assume, would say, we want $3 instead of 7%.
right.
Because that's probably more than the 7%.
It is. I say 3% across the board for everybody and
You
no
mean
percent.
$3?
I mean,
Yeah.
$3
Yeah.
and no percentage
Yeah.
added.
What do you think?
That's fine.
Awesome. It's a good day for Otero County employees.
And just, I mean, just to let you know, that was, so $3 across the board would be just under 1.8 million, 1.78 million. And from removing some of the vacancies and the new hires, that's approximately the dollar amount that we saved. So it would somewhat be a wash, but I think implementing the gross receipts tax would be a beneficial thing to do, just to keep us solvent, and it's not going to, I mean, yes, of course, it's going to affect the public, but it's not going to increase it to more than what it currently is.
I think that sounds like a win for
I got one thing done.
for our people. You're welcome. Thank you.
So Commissioners, just so I'm clear and make sure we're not missing something. So the consensus right now is a $3 across the whole county raise. What about the request for the starting wage increases for those departments that asked?
Actually, A through D, we need an answer on.
A through, okay.
And I know for the detention center, I spoke with Nina, she couldn't be here, but it's essentially, she has such a high turnover in office staff, well, everywhere pretty much, but it's to be more competitive with other employers. That's why she wanted to start those positions. And actually, currently, the people in those positions have been there a while, and they're making more than that, but as attrition happens, she would like to make those starting wages $17 for the front office specialist, that's a full-time position. The part-time office specialist, $15 an hour, and the full-time maintenance specialist, up to $17 an hour.
I agree with B through D, starting wages. The proposals right
Yeah,
there.
because we've already talked about the C and D.
So I go B, C, and D, yes.
I go yes. What say you?
And then they would, everybody else would be the $3 higher, right? And this would be back down,
Right.
so there's a big enough break between the entry and the regular?
Yep.
Okay. So you're still gonna make the CDLs come from 1550 to 16?
Yes.
Still doing that,
I think that's, yeah.
both departments?
And then did you decide on the transfer station attendants?
They agreed.
Are you gonna do anything with them?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the only other two things on there, and I put it on there, it's normally, and I don't know, RB, as far as the certification pay for the field appraisers, that's sort of, I don't know that we have much control over that, if they,
Well, we have, currently, it is authorized by resolution, and so anyone with those certifications is receiving that pay. The legislature voted this year to increase that amount, so I'll be bringing a resolution, it'll probably be next month, for you to approve that increase. So that's kind of how that works.
And we
And
currently
that's
have-
for who?
That's for In the appraiser's office,
I got you.
any employees that have certifications, it's appraiser 1 through 4, they are eligible, if it's authorized by the board, to receive incentive pay for that.
Okay.
As of right now, they're gonna receive $3 just like everybody else, so we don't have to address certification pay right now until you
Yeah.
bring the resolution.
Yeah, they currently are receiving it, and will continue to receive the old amount. You would be authorizing the new amount.
So we're gonna vote next Thursday on the election, so that brings us down to our salary people.
Well, I have one more question on assessor's office. What if we exempt the assessor's office from the $3 raise until we talk about the certification pays? Or would that be too late? Because we want to give $3 and then we're going to give them a raise on top of that $3, right, with the certification?
Well, they're kind of apples and oranges, separate baskets. This $3 pay is to address changes in cost of living by inflation. But the incentive pay is, it doesn't apply to everyone in the assessor's office. It's only people with certifications, and it depends on which certification they have. So.
There are currently 2 individuals scheduled to receive those certifications for fiscal year '24. One is, well, the current amount is $3,000 and $4,000, so a total of $7,000. And honestly, I don't recall what the increased amounts are, how much would be. So that would apply to anyone who currently has the certifications. They would receive the difference up to the increased amount.
So we're giving everybody a $3 raise. That's going to be for the assessor's office approximately $6,700, $7,000 per person. And then on top of that, we're going to give certification raises of $7,000.
Well, some are already receiving it. I mean, it's already authorized for them to receive the old amount. So it's just the difference between what was previously authorized to what was raised by the legislature. So I believe the commission could decide if they chose to keep it at the old. I'd have to look at the statute, because I don't know if the commission has the discretion, but I think this is just building it into the budget, but if you choose to take some other approach with the incentive qualifications, that can be decided when we're discussing the resolution.
Okay.
And then the one other item that we had was for the detention center. She doesn't currently have anyone, I don't think, that are in the position to be promoted, but if a detention officer chooses to, I believe there's a process they have to go through to become a corporal. If they do that process, she's requesting an additional $1.25 an hour for that person. And then from corporal to sergeant, an additional $1.50 an hour. It's similar to what I think the sheriff's office does. I don't know, the dollar amount probably is not the same, but it's a similar process. And like I said, currently she doesn't have anybody ready to do that, but she wants to have that available, that incentive out there to try and get them to go through the process to be promoted.
That's a department infrastructure deal, correct? And that's what we're gonna ask for
Yeah,
from
and she's
here on out?
asking for, I think there's, let's see. She would have, let's see, 5 positions for corporal, and then 4 positions for sergeant. So that would be an increase, like $13,000 total that we would budget. And that's if it happens, that potentially she could have up to 5 people moving from detention officer to corporal, and potentially 4 individuals moving from corporal to sergeant. It would be budgeting for that, doesn't mean that that would actually all happen. And honestly, the number of vacancies that they have is probably going to cover that increase, without even really having to budget for that, but I would budget for it anyhow, just in case it became fully staffed.
That brings another question up. We had talked about they have so many empty positions out there. We have to budget for all of them?
Well, exactly.
We've
I
been
mean-
for years and years and they haven't been
Right, so,
full.
I mean, it's probably a moot point, but because the budget is already there to cover these expenses because of all of those vacancies, but it would still be something that would need to be approved by the commission, so that if people did want to go through that promotion process, even though the budget's already there, we would have to have something in place, approved by the commission stating that, yes, they could receive an additional $1.25 to go to corporal, an additional, from there, an additional $1.50 to go to sergeant. So,
I don't see getting rid of that because that's a promotion and everything, but when you 30 vacancies out there, that's a lot of money you have to figure every year for 30. Okay, say you took 10 of them away. We hadn't been less than 30 since I've been here just about. So, I mean,
yeah.
if you want to make the budget look a little better,
Haven't you already taken those out?
do what?
The vacancies, didn't we take those out the last meeting?
Yeah, so she actually hired 3 detention officers. So she's got, I think, like 20, what was it, 24, 25 vacant. That doesn't include the part-times, I don't think.
And she may be down in the
27
20.
total with the part-time positions. She did hire a few, so.
She may be down in the 20s, but it'll be the high 20s because it's been.
Right, it's been that
Yeah.
amount for a long time.
I agree that promotions need raises.
Well, the promotionary deal, that's fine, but you've got all these empty positions that you're having to budget and figure money for, and that you hadn't filled them in my
Right.
5 years of this.
However, if you don't budget it, and
Oh,
we
I
have an
know.
influx of applicants and they're needed, she has to wait to interview until she comes back and says, will you put it back in my budget?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you could also choose to say, instead of budgeting for, like the 27 that we have, let's budget for 20, And then if she starts getting close to filling all those positions, she would probably know and could come back. And honestly, I mean, she could do that at any time during the year. It doesn't necessarily have to be during budget time. If she truly, so that would help a little bit as well, because it would reduce the amount of money that's just being, sitting out there being held in case those positions are filled. And the other thing to remember is that all those vacant positions, we have to budget full medical expense. And that's a lot more expensive. I mean, not everyone takes full medical. A lot of people, sometimes they don't want it at all. So that's additional money that's sitting out there, but we have to budget for it, because if they choose to take it, we've got to have the money there. However, that being said, it's been 25 to 30-ish vacancies for a very long time. So it might be something to think about, that we reduce the amount that we budget for right now, with the option of, if she's filling those positions and we really need to increase the budget back to what she's asking for here, we can always do that.
Did we not already cut her 7 of the
We
14
cut the
requested?
7 from the new construction.
Okay.
Yes, we did already cut that.
So we're back at 20.
No, down to 27. So there was, actually, she was originally asking for 14 additional for the new construction. And then she said she could cut that down to 7. So that would be 7 on top of what is here, on top of the 27. But this 27 also includes 3 part-time individuals, 1 office specialist, and 2 part-time detention officers. So there's some part-times in there, but Originally, she was asking for 14 on top of this, on top of these vacancies, and she said she could do a 7, but then we cut that out. So it's literally just these vacancies at this point. So 24 then without the part-time. I mean, we can just leave it for now. It's included in the budget.
It's already there,
It's already in there.
and what happens?
But those positions, because they're vacant, would not receive an increase, obviously. They would not receive the increase. They would start at the current starting wages.
And what, does that money roll over to salaries every year, the unused money?
I'm sorry, what?
The unused salaries that are paid, that we've allocated for
So,
like the
yeah, I mean,
position?
if anybody starting between now and June 30th in these vacancies, if they're an employee as of June 30th, they would receive the increase for next year. Anybody starting after June 30th, because we have to cut it off someplace, anybody starting after June 30th would start at whatever, you know, the entry-level wages. Anyone starting between now and June 30th is gonna start at the current entry-level wages, and then July 1, you know, they would receive the increase because they are a current employee who's already been here for a couple of months. Anyone starting after July 1st is going to come in at, you know, those starting wages that we have in place already.
But the unused money for the vacant positions, it exists in the budget of the detention center, and say we get a massive lawsuit and we're paying for that, that would be an area where the director could pull from funds to
That's true.
meet that unpaid cost, and then at the end of the fiscal year, if it were not used, it just essentially goes back into the general fund, or
Yes.
it stayed in the general fund because it never went out.
Okay, then
That's
I
true.
think we should leave it like it is.
Use it as a piggy bank.
Yep. Like piggy banks.
So what about the next item?
Community services? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
you still got the rest of your agenda here.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
We didn't cover
For
the
For
salary.
the salary portion is what I'm saying,
Right.
yeah. So, the last item really is the community services, to discuss that. And we did receive 2 additional applications from what I had previously, from the Chamber, or Center, I keep calling it Chamber, the Center of Commerce, and then Timber Run Water and Sanitation District were the 2 new ones. And I do have, where did I put that? I might have this stuff here. So I think we had decided as far as, so there should be a sheet that shows you all the requests for the community services. And I did add the Center of Commerce in there, and I added Timber Run Water and Sanitation District. As far as Via de Tularosa Senior Housing, they're asking for a little over $3,600 for the change order. We do have some additional ARPA funding, a little bit that is left over from some of the projects that came in a little under budget. So we do have enough to cover that $3,600 for them out of the ARPA funding, the federal funding, because of the fact that it's housing, right? And we wouldn't have to go through creating the ordinance and all that because we have the federal funding available. As far as for the Penasco Valley Telephone though, they're asking for the 3.8 million. We do not have the federal funding available for that at this time.
Yeah.
So, and then, so it would just be all of the other requests that are in green that you need to consider.
Agreed. So, 2 late applicants, deadlines are everything. And I want to support
Yes,
you 5,000%.
And we know the chamber, it was sent to her. She did tell me that the other generic email that I sent it to, chamber@alamogordo.com, apparently is no longer active because they changed their name from chamber to center. But hers is still active, so she must have just missed it. Timber and Water and Sanitation, they've had a change in their general manager, so I think that's why that kind of got dropped. And I was contacted by the new interim general manager, Mark, I I can't remember his last name. And so he submitted this. But the other ones, you know, I contacted them and no one else, I was kind of surprised at some of them. For example, Tularosa Library, never heard anything from them. Mescalero Senior Center, we usually give them about $10,000, but they don't ever use all of it. They didn't submit anything. Mayhill is sort of in turmoil right now. We didn't receive anything from them. Cloudcroft Village Library, we really only funded them the one, well, I guess 2 years. And then Search and Rescue, I was surprised that we didn't receive anything from them. And I don't know if they've had a change in personnel there. I don't know, but we never received a response from them. And I talked with, well, Sylvia brought it up to me that maybe next year what we want to do, instead of sending all of these applications out through email to the previous contact information that we have, maybe send hard copies, certified return receipt.
Yep.
It's going to cost a little bit in postage, but at least we'll know that they received it.
Yep. On your updated community services request, CAPT isn't on there.
Yes, oh, it's not on that? You're right,
And.
it isn't on there.
It wasn't on
So-
the other one either.
Yeah,
We had
it's-
to add them in
Yeah.
there for some reason.
No, not the CAP program from the counseling
No,
center,
that's
the
different.
actual,
That's different program.
Teresa Van Winkle, the
Yep.
Cope, not Cope, the CAP, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And-
one, you're right, it's not on there.
And so we don't automatically send money to those who've always asked that didn't show up. We don't automatically send that money, so we can exclude like the first 3 on the list, which is,
Yeah, they don't get money until they supply
Ask for it.
receipts. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
so I'm gonna stick with the deadline for you. Because we're already changing all of these numbers every single time, and I know that you work on that last second to get it to us. So here we are again doing late requests for people that couldn't meet deadlines, that also have their own deadlines that they have to meet. So Julianne, I will fall back on you, whatever you want, to allow late applications or not. We're opening the door for now and forever. Or we can have a hard line and say, see you next year, and you
Right, I
better be
mean-
on time.
For example, a state agency, once that grant period closes, it closes, and you
That's
have to
right.
wait till the next year.
Yes.
So, that's true, that's a true statement. And CAP, you're right, that was not added in here, they're requesting $25,000.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, I completely missed that.
So if we were to eliminate the top 4, Allen Board of Search and Rescue didn't show up,
Right.
the counseling,
Counseling Center, that home detention program, they weren't asking for budget for that
Okay.
this year. They're only asking for their Community Alternative Placement Program, I think is what that CAPP program is.
and then the High Rolls Community Water didn't show up. Then you
No.
have Mayhill, Mescalero, and the New Mexico State Library, disappointing, didn't show up.
And it's not really a requirement for them to come and present their request or for their programs. Of course, I think it's probably always helpful so that you can ask questions and get a better sense of what their program is. But it's not, we
It's
don't
never
make
been
it
a requirement.
mandatory for them. We could in the future, if you want funding, you need to show up. We could make that a requirement if you wish for
Definitely.
next year.
Yeah. So we eliminate all of those that didn't show up and PVT.
Right.
Then,
I already cut PVT out of that bottom line.
oh, look at the wrong sheet. You cut PVT, oh, I see it now.
Yeah, it's in yellow.
So you're wanting to cut the chamber and Tiburon out?
They didn't meet the deadline. I don't want to be a hard ass, but I mean, we've got to be a hard ass.
They do too much. You do that to Tiburon and they're gonna devastate that community.
What do? They haven't presented anything. We're giving money, but what do? I want to know what they've done with their money.
They got a breakdown in their deal that tells you exactly where the money goes.
We
This is-
funded them
this is the
before,
one
but this is a
for today.
huge increase.
Right.
We've never done
This
one.
is the
Tells you
one for
everything
today.
that the money's spent on.
Chamber should have one for timber on too. There you go. And it's got a breakdown on the second page where it's going.
Now, if they come in after whenever we submit it to the state, yeah, I understand, but you're gonna have to work, and I'm really surprised at some of these other ones but the chamber does so much for the community, you can't, sorry, I can't go that way.
What have they done? Can we look at their sheet?
But I can tell you one thing that they've done, just helping us on this Law Loose Gate deal, is well over the $10,000 worth of money. And if they can get that pulled off,
I know,
that's,
but that's before my time, so I have no idea
Yes,
without them
yes.
presenting what they have done.
That's true.
So, that's where I'm at. What have you done? Why do you need more money if you can't show me what you've done with your money?
One other thing to consider is some of these programs do use our funding as a match for a federal or state grant. And those are the ones that have the little red check mark at the end. So if they don't receive funding from us, it's possible they'll not receive their federal or state grant.
Do we have the money to fund these if we fund all of them as requested?
I'm sorry, what?
Do we have the money in the budget? I mean, are we good?
It's not in there right now, because I wasn't sure what you would approve. So it'd be $1,280,000 or so if you approved all of this. And that is coming directly from the general fund. The general fund transfers funding in to pay for this. However, don't forget, we're also doing this as a reimbursable. And I think it's already possible that some of these agencies, they're not gonna use their entire budget because they're just not, they're not sending the requests for the full amount. They don't have, they're, for whatever reason, they're either just not sending it to us or they haven't expended that much this year. So it's possible that some of these budgets, even though we're budgeting for the full amount, they may not actually expend all of it by June 30th. If they don't submit it to us, I think we give them an additional 2 weeks after the close of the fiscal year. So approximately July 15th, they would have to submit their last pay request to us in order to receive the funding. And if they miss that deadline, they lose the payment, so.
And this is same type.
And you can also, you could choose to reduce some of these amounts. You don't have to, fund all of it.
well, the Alamo Main Street, Alamogordo is only funding them 40,000 and they're asking 50 from us, no, 56 from us. I don't understand what the difference is there. That was a question I was gonna ask somebody if they
When he
knew.
presented, he talked about opening a new position,
Like a part-time?
a part-time position to make it an art district. He said he needed that part-time position.
Right, and they were
That-
gonna have a little restaurant and stuff.
That's what that is. But I agree. Why are we getting more than Alamogordo? So you wanna reduce that to 40,000 to match Alamogordo?
I'd say we could match. and
Yeah.
that's- Seems like that would be
I agree.
fair.
So Alamo Main Street, 40,000? We'll match Alamogordo's?
Yeah.
So how do we make it so these deadlines stick? If we're gonna let everybody do it, then tomorrow you're gonna get the rest of these applicants. Say, oh, I forgot. And then we'll be doing this all over again.
We just make it stick is what we do.
Right, so how do we make it stick?
For next year, I think sending the applications out, return receipts, so we know for sure that they received it. And just making it part of the agreement, part of the application, stating that, these deadlines are final, and if we do not receive the application by this deadline, you will not be considered for funding this fiscal year.
Well,
So-
If you send it out hard mail certified,
We could do that.
and they, you know they got the deal, then that's on them.
Then they should be able to read through the document and know what those deadlines are. I mean, we can, in a cover letter, we can, you know, bold it, put it in red, whatever. Here are the deadlines for this grant. For application purposes, for final pay request purposes. If these deadlines are not met, you will not receive the funding.
And so what do? We approve these 2 late applicants, and tomorrow you're gonna get 10 more. How are we gonna do that? You got time in your life for that?
Well, we still got another meeting for approval on this on May 25th still, so.
And she's gotta have her numbers tight at
Right.
that meeting.
That's
There's
what I'm
no
talking
adding
about.
anything.
So we're doing this approving right now, 2 more, then we're gonna get 10 more late applicants that say, oh, I didn't get my email, so I need to apply, and then we're gonna be doing this all over again, and Julianne's gonna be struggling to get her numbers by that date. I have deadlines every single day of my life, and when I miss them, it sucks. There's nothing good about it, but they don't make accommodations for me.
Right.
Well, I know it stinks, but I'm for going along with these 2 late requests this time, but I think next year when we send them out, we're gonna have to put a deadline, and that's it. And if we can get an address of the actual business and not, and, you know, kind of get away from the people, because when they change, they're not getting their stuff.
Right.
So, we're scratching 100% Otero. Alamo Senior Center Meals on Wheels, really, they can't come in and apply?
They're on there.
But they haven't come in or submitted an application or anything.
Well, yeah, if they didn't submit an application, you're not considering any funding.
Right.
No, we can't
That was last year.
issue without an app.
No, the ones in the green,
Yeah, because I'm
all the ones in the green we got applications for,
No,
right?
if you see there's some empty spaces in the green.
Yeah, but
that
I
means
mean-
they didn't apply.
Yeah, but
Right.
if it has a number value in there,
They
we got it.
requested
So,
it.
yeah, they did. They're right there,
Okay.
28,000.
So-
Many years ago, when I first started, we funded these to the tune of approximately $2 million. And the board slowly started to whittle away every year in the hopes to keep social programs capped at $500,000. Their focus was on senior citizens, children, so they spent about 5 years getting this down to the $500,000 mark. Just a bit of history that we're gonna be bumping this up by $750,000 from where we've been for many years.
And then there was also the issue with New Mexico State Co-op Extension Services where we were going to cut most of the agencies by about 50% because that was during COVID. We had no idea what was going to happen with the budget, and there was such a huge outcry from the public about that we ended up funding it 100%. And so that is, I think, where we've allowed this creep to come in because the public, especially the senior centers, anything to do with senior centers, you know, programs like the NMSU, co-op services, those types of things, the public really has a problem with cutting any of those.
The Alamogordo Public Library, looks like we allocated for them 50,000 last year also, but they only spent 32,000 of it.
So far this year,
So what if we say 35,000 for them for this year?
so whatever they don't request for reimbursement, it goes back to the general fund cash, essentially. Let's see.
You don't have to fully fund any item, you can
Right.
cut them all by 50%. It's really, you can go line by line and make cuts.
And I hate to do that, but we've got to. I'm a bookie. I would live in the library if I could, but if they're only using 32,000, then let's give them 35 and see what happens for next year.
Commissioners, on the High Rolls Water Association and the Tiburon Water and Sanitation District, I would consider that potentially funding these big asks. It's opening the floodgates for every water association in the county to, one, ask, and if you say no, two, point out, well, you gave them that much, why not us? So. And they should be charging fees to their members that sufficiently cover the services they're providing.
And High Rolls has never asked before, and their ask now, what is it substantiated, $160,000? What are they substantiating that with?
Last year was the first year for Timberline. They requested $15,000, and that was essentially to help cover cost of their trash service pickup. It was to help defray those costs. This year, they're asking for $92,000.
And it includes things like road maintenance,
Yeah.
golf course maintenance, library maintenance,
Yeah.
swimming pool operation. I would send them a note that says
Oh,
incorporate.
High Rolls.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, where are all these numbers coming from?
Well, that was the new one. It's not in the book.
So, High Rolls.
The reason why High Rolls is so high is because they're doing the whole fire hydrant, water pipe installation.
So the $160,000 request from the High Rolls,
Yeah,
I have a question mark grant application, a grant match. Is it a grant match?
There's no check mark next to it, no.
Oh, okay, and then. Is there not a grant available that they can apply for?
I know that Tiburon has gotten grants before.
Right.
True. I mean, some of these agencies may have received funding before I got here. I'm just aware of, since I've been here, that's the first time
No,
last year.
I mean, other state
Yes.
agency grants. There are
Yes.
other grants they,
Yeah.
Tiburon I know receives.
Grant matches are usually what, 25%? Or just depends on the grant?
Depends on the grant.
Yeah,
5%
it depends
to
on
be
the
20.
agency and the grant.
So if we told them to go back and apply for a grant, we could do a grant match and just assume it was at 20%. And that'd be $40,000, what we could allow them when they got their application approved.
That would be a little bit open-ended because you don't know, it depends on what grant they get. They are pending, they put in their last thing that they're pending approval for a $450,000 grant from the Colonius grant, and the USDA needs to approve it, but I wouldn't want to say commit to like 20% or something, and then they get $1 million grant, more on the hook for something like that.
That's what I was saying, 40, just
Oh.
allow 40. 450 at 20% is 112,000. It's still less than what they're asking for.
True. Again, these are services that their members should be paying for, and it's we're getting a little bit far away from the purpose of what we're trying to do here with this, and it's only gonna keep, the farther we let it creep, the farther it'll go.
Okay. So scratch the high rolls.
You're gonna scratch them completely?
Well, I would be willing to do a grant match, just even if we said 100,000 via the proposal for grant match.
Yeah, 'cause we've got a water association in High Rolls where I live, and we pay our monthly thing, you know what I mean? We pay for all of that, so.
That would, if we did, kind of what you're proposing, that would require some detailed agreement, laying out the conditions and terms of it. And it'd be more complex than these simple agreements that we're doing that say, we're providing this in exchange for you providing, services that benefit the community and, a government would normally provide, but since we're, small and limited in our scope, we're going to provide this funding so that you can accomplish it, for the good of the community.
There's another thing to consider when we do social programs. Typically, they benefit all of Otero County, and these are specifically targeted at certain residents in those communities. You could also, for fear that every water association is going to come out and say, pay my bills, throughout the year, you could tell them, we're not going to do this. If you come to a point where you need a match, bring it to the board then. We can look at our budget. Do we have it? Do we want to venture down that road or not?
That's what I want.
Yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah.
Can you call Matt in here? Because this is fire,
Which one?
The high rolls?
the high rolls one. This is all on fire hydrants and fire protection.
Hey, this phone doesn't work again.
I want to see if I could get, 45,000 out for the Lincoln.
Only because it's you?
Only because it's me. Commissioners, I would just like some clarification. And after we left that meeting where, you guys took the 45,000. So I went back to my office and did some deep thinking. Anyway, so according to the minutes from the April 6th meeting, Eric stated that the commission addressed cleaning issue with the annex. Mr. Ariano stated that his department does bathrooms, floors, and trash. That's
Rachel, you're fixing to get off on another discussion that's gonna be a long time.
No, this is what I would like, Gerald, okay, so that was what was stated. So my question to you guys is, and this isn't something, this is just a question. So I would like clarification from you guys on if that's what buildings and grounds, that's what they say, that's their job. Well, I would like clarification on whose job is it then to do windows, interior, exterior, the public access doors, the ceiling vents, the cobwebs, the dead roaches, the public counter services, things that the public is touching and leaving things.
And that
So
question,
that's
that
what I
question
was just
can't be
saying.
answered unless Eric's sitting here to
Okay.
defend himself. That's why I'm saying, Rachel, this is gonna go into a 30 or 45-minute discussion, and my brain's already racked, and I'm sitting here waiting to ask him a question.
Okay,
So if you wanna get back in line,
okay.
we'll go
Just
to
want
that
clarification.
next.
I didn't hear walk that fast.
Matt, my question is, High Rolls is asking for $160,000, and their description is for fire hydrants, pipe, dirt to fill it in, backhoe labor. Is this what can they do besides ask us for this? Is there funding that they should be able to get for fire protection?
The Water Association for High Rolls cannot get fire protection funds for that. the fire department in High Rolls could work with the association, figure out what they need, and the possibility exists that they apply for a state fire marshal grant that will be opening up soon to increase their water. So the potential is there to get a little bit of funding to help based off of how well they write that grant. And if the state fire marshal's office sees it as potential to increase their ISO rating. If they don't see it as a potential, they probably will not get funded. And then it's also based off of the needs across the entire state. Historically, they get probably $20 million in requests over the amount of money that they have. So it's a gamble as to whether they get it or not. You know, it's not bad to say, we're going to sit back and let you guys try it with the fire department to try and get that improvement to help out the residents in that area. And then maybe using commission money to do the match, I don't know, or association money rather to do the match, because there will be a match for it. I have not seen their proposal, so I don't know what they're looking at, but with the fire marshal's office, it will have minimums that it has to have, like 6-inch mains for that hydrant. And then you're gonna wanna make sure that there's pumping downstream besides just coming off of the water tank, so that you have the pressure to not only give the residents the pressure that they need in their house, but the pressure at the hydrant so that they can fill their trucks.
Yep. So I go back, let's wait and see if they can do those programs, and then they can address a match later.
Now I don't have a problem. I was asking, wanting to know if there was a different way, funding that they could get for this.
Mhm.
I mean, it's an important deal. I don't know
You're needed down here, please.
where y'all live. Is that in the High Rolls Water District?
We have a.
They're in a different
They're in a different deal?
district.
Yeah, yeah. Our water is not cheap in High Rolls.
I didn't know if that was the area that they were going, trying to put fire hydrants and stuff like that in.
There are a couple fire hydrants in their water association, but I think they're on like maybe a 2 or 3 inch main, which is really not sufficient by NFPA standards. But it's better than nothing. And they do have a substantial amount of water that is available for firefighting purposes in that district.
Because in my eyes, fire prevention in those mountains is very important.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
So that, I don't want to throw them to the curb, but I would like to see if they could get some funding somewhere. Other state money, federal money, something, I mean.
There are grants out there for them. I'm sure of it. Which ones they are, I don't know. But I do know like Borough Flats applied last year for a state grant through the fire marshal's office to increase their water storage capability. And they were approved to add a tank at 72,000 gallons on site. And then a hydrant and piping and a pump in between. This would be a little bit more. I don't know how far they're looking at doing, what they're looking at, because first I'm hearing of it.
Okay.
Thank you. I go back to Pamela's. Let's say, come back and see us when you need a match, and we'll see what we can do.
I don't have a problem with that, I just wanna be able to, if we have to help them somehow, be able to help them. $96,000 is not gonna go very far on pipe, and I don't know how many hydrants, they're not really giving us very many.
Well, High Rolls is 160. They're asking for 160,000.
Yeah, but-
Ron is 92.
The pipe and the valves or
Oh, you're looking
material
at that,
is
yeah.
96,000 in it. I mean, that's, I don't know.
For $96,000 in Timbron, I don't
This is
think.
High Rolls.
This is High Rolls.
High Rolls,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but for Timbron, I don't think they're getting a lot of anything for that. That's a lot of rock that they gotta dig through.
Well, they have 59,000 for the digging, plus 96,000 for the hydrants.
Yes, I'm just looking at the material just on the pipe and the hydrants. Okay,
Okay.
thanks, Matt.
Matt.
You're welcome.
Are this the only ones you want to cut from this list?
Yep. Can we go line item, so I can make notes?
Preferable.
Okay. So 100% Otero? No.
Request.
Right. Meals on Wheels and and transportation are both yeses.
Yes.
And Chamber of Commerce, we're gonna have
I say yes.
Yeah,
I say no, so it's a yes. Main Street down to 40,000.
Mhm.
The public library, I say 35,000.
Can we get a second on that?
I think I'd rather leave it at 50 and see
Gerald?
if they use it.
You're the tiebreaker.
yeah, leave it at there.
Okay.
Search and rescue is a no.
They're not, yeah, put in the flag.
The Cloudcroft Library didn't request anything, so it's out. Don't forget capped 25,000. I'm gonna write it in here. Right? Do we want capped before I write it in here?
Yeah,
Okay.
And you just
I just-
handwrote them in.
Yeah. And then the counseling center CAP program is
It's
$109,000.
a great program, and it keeps juveniles out of our detention.
And that, and they used, let me see if I'm, 103, yeah, I say yes.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. And then they didn't request for the home detention.
Mhm.
Dog breath, I say yes. Do we need to,
I don't have a problem with that,
I think
because we
it's
do have a dog issue around
Big
here.
problem with the pound, so I say yes.
Flickinger Center?
I'm gonna not say anything on this one. I'm gonna recuse myself and let you guys, because obvious reasons.
I say yes.
I do too.
High Rolls is a no, pending any future requests.
Correct.
Keep Tularosa beautiful, I say yes.
Say yes.
Mayhill Community Center didn't request, so it's out.
Mhm.
Muscalero Senior out. The Bookmobile out. Gosh, that's disappointing,
Where are they out?
because they didn't request.
Yeah, they did.
Yes, they're right there.
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
Right there.
Oh, okay, okay. So yes, that,
Yes.
that makes me happy. The extension office, asking 117,000. They used 50,000.
They still have a quarter or two to apply for. They get their money in quarters,
Mm.
so they may tap on it.
I say yes on that one.
Yeah.
They do a lot of stuff out there.
Okay. There's no
Our
economic
Vic is-
development
yeah,
anymore.
They're not there anymore.
The fair, what did we decide on that? You had a lot of questions on.
They had the bathroom
the bathrooms and everything. Gerald, are you okay with that amount, Mr. Construction Man?
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Yep, I think they need it.
Soil and water?
Yes.
Yes, they do good things. PVT, no. Sadly. We'll get them some money. Sacramento Mountain Seniors, she's great. She
Yes.
does a lot.
Yes, she does.
So here we are back with the whole water district. I mean, obviously Tim Braun's been asking for money forever. We've been giving it.
Recently, we only gave it for trash, dumpsters, roll-offs, cleanup. This is their pool, their golf course, things that they collect fees for. Roads, these are our non-maintained roads that they're responsible for.
Mhm.
We have given them
Oh.
road equipment, old used road equipment to help them with road maintenance.
I'm a yes with them.
I don't know. Their golf course, they collect fees for. The swimming pool, they should collect fees for.
You could just select a few that you support.
And trash dumpsters, I pay for my own trash. Do their citizens not have to pay for their own trash? How does that work? I mean,
I don't know if it's
obviously I
included
don't
in
want it
fees.
dumped out everywhere, but I mean, $30,000 to supply everybody's trash for free when everybody else has to pay for it. That's,
This year, they requested 15,000 for the dumpsters, and so they're requesting double that for
Yeah.
next.
what is, this is putting you on the spot, our tax-based collection out of Tiburon? Do you
I
know
don't-
that off
that
the
I don't
top of
know.
your head?
I have
I've been
no idea.
told
Rachel
from
knows it off the top
a
of her head.
angry citizen there that it's $500,000 a year. So,
And I think
and
we
I
did-
think she called the treasurer's office to get that data, so.
But I think we only give about 175,000 of that to the general fund.
The problem with Tiburon is the way that it is set out. There is no way to actually extract out how much is actually Tiburon versus versus we, versus because of the school district and how the tax base is there. So it's very difficult to get an exact number of just Tiburon. It's, but I can tell you that Tiburon Water and Sanitation has a $5 charge on their tax bills. That was actually voted on by their citizens years ago. So that they actually pay a $5 fee that we collect, that goes directly to Tiburon Water and Sanitation. That's on every tax bill for the Tiburon area that we send out. That was voted on by their people. I also know that Tiburon Water and Sanitation charges a standby fee if you own a lot, whether you have water or ever plan to get water in the future, even if there's not a pipe there, they charge you a standby fee, and that's, I believe it's $35 a year for any property, any person that owns a piece of property in Tiburon. And a lot of times, there's properties in Tiburon that don't have roads to them. So the taxes, I mean, a normal tax bill on a 1 acre lot in Tiburon was $46 a year. So they pay $46 a year, $5 of it goes right directly to Tiburon Water and Sanitation, and then the sanitation district is also charging their $35 a year, so. It's not a money-making area for the county.
And then you said road maintenance was for their county-owned, non-maintained roads.
They're unmaintained by the county, yes.
So that
They're
means
responsible for certain roads
the
themselves.
10 million other non-maintained roads
Mhm.
that are in Otero County would have to get paid for by this too, right? So I say no on that. cemetery maintenance, how are cemeteries normally funded? Is that through health services? Is that through,
I think most are private, so that's, people pay, so,
so their Tiburon Cemetery, is it private?
no clue on that.
Don't even know where it's at.
So,
I don't either. Uh-huh.
Sammy Tejas used to run the Rollins Community Center, and he also did the cemetery. And I'm not exactly sure who actually owned the property, but he charged $200 for every plot. And then out of that $200, they would pay their backhoe guy to come and dig it out and cover it back up. And that's how they did it. They, just by selling the piece of property is how they covered it.
Yeah, I think I want to scratch that. I mean, it's only $1,000, but still, we'd have to fund everybody.
Yeah. 'Cause I know our Monte Vista Cemetery here is owned by the city, because that's who you pay the money to when you're buying a burial plot. I know that. And then the Catholic Cemetery is owned by the Catholic Church, so they maintain that.
The library building in Tiburon, is it county-owned?
No.
So what is the maintenance for?
No clue. All you got is this. Now,
I-
might I recommend, years ago, before we revamped these forms, we asked for these agencies to submit their annual budget.
Yep.
Operating expenses,
That'd be-
revenues. That would help us greatly in deciding if they can afford it themselves.
That'd be better.
Could we do that next year?
Yep, that's why I would say they have to be here, so we.
That too, yeah.
Yes, and answer questions.
Because we don't know what kind of income, their revenue they're bringing in with these fees.
That's a
Right.
good idea. I just hate to start funding this stuff and then each year it just grows and,
Right.
you know.
No, I agree.
And from what I remember, Tiburon, we did have them bring their money.
So Tiburon. Tiburon.
Golf course maintenance, that shouldn't be on it. No, we don't own the golf course.
So last year, they requested 15,000. This year, they're requesting 92,000. I would approve the 15,000. That's it.
I would agree with that too.
Does that sound all right?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
The only heartburn I have on that is on the road maintenance. I just know how washed out and terrible those
They're-
roads are.
They're private, though.
Not all of them. Some of them are county, but they're not maintained county.
Then why don't we take them into maintenance?
Take them what?
Maintain
To
them.
the rod, yeah, why don't we, then, if we pay for them to be maintained, that means we need to maintain them.
Which is what they've been wanting for many years,
I'm
us
sure.
to take over all their roads.
Yeah,
Yeah, that,
you'd have to hire a whole nother crew to maintain all the roads they have up there.
That
I-
noise you just heard was Tom painting in his office.
where's Tom? So no, I don't think the roads, they need to live in the center of Tiburon where it is maintained, if they want a maintained road.
So you're at the 15?
Yeah, I think 15. And even that's risky because we don't know where it's going.
Okay.
Children's Public Library, they didn't request anything? Okay, no. Tularosa Senior Program
Yes.
is requesting 35,000. They spent 30,000 of it so far?
All of those amounts, they're year-to-date actuals, so they're going to request additional reimbursements between now and the July 15th deadline, but that was as of like the last week of April, what we had paid out to them.
I say yes on that one.
So
I say
they've
yes.
almost requested, we've almost paid them their entire budget for this year, which is 32,000.
Okay.
And then the Tularosa Senior Housing, we decided is ARPA.
Yes.
And Zia, Orange Route, and Z-Trans, I say yes and yes.
Yes, me too.
One page done.
That is all of your scheduled items.
Are we there? Wait a minute, it's not 4 o'clock yet.
I gotta be out of here
I
at
know,
noon.
I know.
Come on up here.
Oh,
Eric,
man.
come on
There-
up here.
There goes your 4 o'clock now.
Here goes your 4 o'clock. Here goes your 4 o'clock.
Thank you.
Who is he?
I took notes too.
Oh,
Oh, on Tiburon, $6.49 per $1,000 assessed. Okay, their levy's $142,000 a year. So that we send them, that $5 that I was talking about, it's $142,000 a year. Just so, you know, Tiburon, water and sanitation is getting so much.
so tell RB it's 500,000 from the citizen is incorrect.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's just the levy amount though. So Eric, I was talking to the commission, we talked about in the April 6th meeting, you said that buildings and grounds, only janitorial stuff that they're gonna do are gonna be floors. Hold on, let me see what you said. Hold on. Bathrooms, floors, and trash. So then my question to the commission is, then whose job do we need to, my thought is, you know, I originally asked for janitorial service, so that it wouldn't be on you guys, that it would be a separate deal, right? So, anyway, so that's how I'm back to. So, if buildings and grounds only is gonna do those 3 things, then whose job is it to do the windows, inside and out, the public access doors, the dead bugs in the light fixtures? We've got dust and dirt on the windowsills, the window blinds, the bathroom partitions, the ceiling vents, the public counter surfaces, and the door handles.
Well, I know about 90% of that has been cleaned. I mean, people open and close those doors, you're gonna get dust. I think in personal areas, you have blinds in your office or whatever, I think that's the office's responsibility. We're not there to dust desks, dust window blinds and all that. My guy yesterday was actually cleaning windows outside and the doors inside. That's done periodically, not every day, unless
Okay.
they get bad. The bathrooms, I know the complaint was made before, and we have dusted those, and we do dust those. Maybe not daily, if that's something that needs to happen, absolutely.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, is that gonna fall under your department, or do we need to go out for a janitorial service? That's my question.
I don't see why you can't go out and buy a Swiffer and dust the blinds, or buy some Windex and clean the windows inside your office. I don't know where,
I think-
that's a general, if you're talking about the windows for the clerks, that is their general workspace. We will do the lobby area, because that's public area, but I think your staff should be responsible for cleaning their own windows.
On our side, yes, we do.
Okay?
But I'm talking about the lobby area.
And we do
The
clean
lobby
those.
area where the windows are, we have a window in our office, or in our lobby area that has a windowsill there. There is a window that faces this fence right here that's in the main office area that has dirt caked on the windowsill.
And I believe that's part of the general work area, because it's not an individual office, but you have 2 employees that use that area. I think that is a
Okay.
general area that should be cleaned by your department.
Okay, so then I guess the question, so then for clarification, anything that is outside in the lobby area, the hallway, the bathrooms, that common area, you know what I'm talking?
Mhm.
Okay, so our doors that lead in and out of our office, are those,
We do clean those.
okay.
But, I mean, those doors are opened and closed constantly. We've had winds, they're not sealed 100%. You're gonna get dust, but what are you wanting us to clean every day? Is that what you're asking?
Well, to me, I don't know, for safety and, or just for sanitary conditions, any place that business is normally, those exterior doors and door handles are wiped down daily. On the inside, so that you don't have germ buildup from everybody and their brother and their fingerprints all over the
Okay, and
windows.
we can wipe them down at 6:30 in the morning, and the public's gonna come in.
And they'll be
they're
dirty by
gonna
the
be
end of the
dirty
day.
all day long?
Yes.
I mean, what?
Okay, I'm just asking if.
We don't have staff to sit there and wipe the door every time somebody walks in.
I understand that.
Just, and you talk about sanitary conditions, but you guys have a dog that runs freely in your office. And we have to clean that. My guy shows me the mop after he mops it up, there's dog hair everywhere. He shows me the vacuum cleaner, after we vacuum, there's dog hair in the vacuum cleaner. That one vacuum cleaner we use for the entire building. Now we're spreading dander and other allergens into other offices, and I don't know if these people have dog allergies or what, but I don't have to buy 3 separate vacuum cleaners for that building. But that's literally what's gonna have to happen.
Well,
And I don't know that there's a policy about having a pet in the office, but I don't think it's our responsibility to clean up after that.
I can't speak to that.
Well, I'm speaking to it
Okay,
right now. I
okay.
know it happens.
I can't speak to that. So my question is the public areas.
And they're cleaned daily. They're wiped
Okay.
down daily.
Okay,
I will
okay.
concede to the fact that there's some TLC that needs to be done to the bathrooms, which I am going to work on to make it where it can be wiped down and made more sanitary. But those public areas are mopped, they're swept, the windows are cleaned at least weekly,
Okay.
and we do wipe down everything else. Like I said, I've got people throwing coffee, soda,
can't
whatever
imagine.
else down the drains. I mean, but I do not have the staff to have somebody there all day long to clean up when somebody drops their coffee, or somebody spills something, or somebody handles a door. I mean.
Okay. Okay, and so, let me ask you this too, since we're sitting here. Have we gotten anywhere on a deep clean date?
I've got a guy that he's been cleaning as he can. He's been cleaning in the main hallway areas and going around.
Okay.
I don't know if you paid attention, but the floors are a lot cleaner in the areas of the pictures I was presented to.
Right. Okay, this is a light fixture right outside my door.
Okay.
Um,
And that can happen on a daily basis.
It
That
can.
stuff should be taken care
It
of.
can. So that's what, I just want to, and I don't think that, because I looked in here, and that's not,
I actually had him do that maybe a couple of weeks ago. I had him go through and remove all the bugs.
so, we've got bugs in our, that, since we moved in the building.
I
So-
didn't build the building.
I
It's
know.
not completely
And it's-
sealed.
it is
I got
not.
bugs in my house. I'm sure there's bugs
Right,
in here. I mean,
right.
that's part of.
So I'm concerned about the face of the county, that,
I'm not
So-
standing up for either one of you, but if you would hire a custodian service, they're not gonna come in and clean the light fixtures on their regular deal.
on a probably a monthly rotation, they probably would.
But then you're talking more money again, if you're gonna start throwing items like that. They're gonna come in, I'm not gonna get in this argument.
Okay, well, I appreciate you guys' time. I can see it's a moot point,
So,
Get the bugs out of the light fixtures.
so.
We do. I mean, I go around, I look at them, and I always ask my guys. That's one of the extra details that we have. Like I said, I know within probably the last month, I asked him to do that. I can tell him to do it today, there'll be a bug in the light tomorrow. I mean, we do the best we can with the amount of staff that I have. I do not think that that building is unclean or unsanitary. I wish the 3 of you would go walk through there. I really do.
I've been
Because
through
to
there.
me, it is not near in the condition that they are playing this out.
Well, I'm there every other week at least. And, I see the differences, I see the shiny floor in the hallways, and I see that.
I mean, if we could tell people how to use the bathroom, how to wash their hands, how many paper towels to use, it'd be great. I would love that. Our job would be simple, but I can't. And I hate to say it, but most of that stuff is done by employees. And we understand that's our job, to go back and clean it up. But we don't clean it up throughout the day unless it's a necessity. Somebody made a mess, or it's very unsanitary. But I mean, we'd be there all day, every day.
I guess just next month, give us a report if it's improved or not.
Okay.
And let's go from there.
Didn't we approve you another part-time?
I do have another part-time, and we're looking into seeing about getting somebody else hired. And I have had 2 guys working on that building.
I just know that it's a heavy public area. That's probably the most public than anywhere else.
It is, and it is cleaned every day,
We used-
every morning, like all the rest of our buildings.
Prior to Eric being the Buildings and Grounds supervisor, when Doug Bourbon was here, we had a specific employee, Mario Minez, I can't even say his name, was assigned to that building. He was in that building from the time he came in the morning till the time he left at night, working in that building. That went on for years. Yes, he knew he couldn't wax the floor during, when the doors were open for public use, but he could still go around and clean vents and things like that. That's how it used to be when we first moved into that building. And I don't know how long since he's been gone, but since Doug's been gone, we have not had a person specifically designed for that building. Years ago, just some history, Buildings and Grounds, the guys that work Buildings and Grounds, we had a licensed plumber, we had a licensed electrician, we had a licensed carpenter. Those 3 individuals did janitorial 2 hours a day. So they would come in, they would dump the trash, or, help out wherever they could, and the rest of the time they did those specific jobs. And so, that being said, we had people that were assigned to certain buildings. And so I don't know, it seemed to work back then, and the buildings seemed to be cleaner. I don't know if that's,
Well, and to bring you up to current history, I do still have one person assigned to that building. He's the only one that does that building every morning. When I took over, we had an abundance of employees, and what I had was guys that didn't do anything. They did a little bit of cleaning, and they sat around, and we paid them to sit around, to talk to the employees, to go and gossip and do that kind of thing. I made a decision to cut my department down and make it manageable to where I could give the guys that were working a raise, so I took that out of my budget to do that and be able to handle the work that we do. The reason we no longer have licensed employees is because, again, we're in the same boat as Tom and Ralph. We can't compete with wages to pay a journeyman. You're not gonna pay a journeyman $35,000, even $40,000 to work here. They're not gonna take this job. They're gonna go work for Darnell Plumbing, they're gonna go work for Zuni Electric, so we don't have licensed plumbers. It's more cost effective for us to just contract out those jobs that we can't handle. But that's the reason why we don't have the employees and why we focus on the 2 hours of cleaning. When we have downtime, we do go back and try to hit these areas as much as we can. But that's not a building that I think we need to designate somebody to go sit around all day and look busy. That's why I don't have somebody in that building.
I agree, there's not enough work for 40 hours over there.
So again, I encourage you, if you have not walked through the building, to go walk through the building, and you can give me an honest opinion, and I will do whatever we need to do. But we will go through and do a cleaning that they asked for, and try to get it up to where it needs to be.
I have a question. Do you have, if we want carpet, if we need new carpet, I know we've been talking about carpet for 3 years.
I already have it budgeted to get you carpet.
Okay.
That's already done.
Can we have more carpet? Can we have the whole thing carpet?
No. If it was my choice, you wouldn't get carpet back.
Can't you have carpet on the whole thing in the back?
So let's talk about this dog care issue.
Yes.
How is that part of?
We have a vacuum.
What?
We have a vacuum. We have purchased a vacuum for vacuuming of our offices.
But they still vacuum too.
I don't know that they vacuum. I can't say.
We
Because, like,
vacuum in the little areas we can get around for all the
You
stuff
can't-
on the floor.
You can't get in my office, so Eric will tell you, you can't. I mean, I have this much floor.
But we do vacuum. All
So-
the office space. All of the offices in there have carpet, we vacuum all. And we also vacuum the mats outside and in the different areas. And we take them and wash the mats as well. We wash them off at our facility, we let them dry, we bring them back for the doormats.
So yeah, we've only got 2 offices that have carpet. The rest of ours is that tile. What's that?
Yeah.
It's far harder to maintain carpet than tile.
So is there policy on a dog?
No, there's not. No such policy anywhere in our ordinance or resolution. We do have, I know this building, and I've done it before, you come back from lunch, your dog has to go to bed at 2 o'clock, you bring your dog with you for an hour or 2 to be taken to bed. I allow the employees to do that. It's not all day, it's an hour. And everybody gets a kick out of seeing a puppy. When somebody gets a new puppy, we bring it in. But does a dog spend a day every day? No. Because everybody's distracted by the puppy. Now, I know it's not a new puppy, but people get distracted.
I don't have a problem with bringing dogs as long as whoever brings them is responsible for them and cleans up.
Apple's been here.
Mine's coming in next week after he goes to the groomer, because the girls want to see him.
And that's my feeling as well. I don't mind the dog occasionally, but if everybody brought their dogs every day, all day, can you imagine what we would have?
I think bring the dog bed.
We have, and like I said, but on the occasion is one thing, but to bring, if we allowed every employee to bring their dog to work every day,
Did you see the daggers I just got from Will when they said that?
I just, that's my opinion on it. I agree with Commissioner Matherly that that should be, that individual should take on the responsibility of cleaning. I mean, not saying the dog is dirty, but dogs shed, dogs have stuff on their paws. I mean, I have several. And it's a lot to clean up.
So we'll see how you do next month, I guess, and see if we can't fix this relationship.
Trust me, I'm trying. I am.
Okay, do we need it?
I have a question about
Okay.
budget stuff that's not on budget requests. What if you see a department that's spending money in areas where we don't believe it should be spent? How do we address that?
Typically, when the department presents you a budget during the budget cycle, you would question them, hey, I think there's some excessive spending here based on what I've seen this last year, or the last 6 months, or based on the bills list. I've never seen it, but there's nothing stopping you in the middle of the year from questioning a department head and stating this is excessive. You can't direct a department head without the board's full approval to make a change, but yeah, it should be addressed.
So with the clerk's office, since 2015, we've been paying another attorney organization to guide or whatever with the clerk's office.
Yes.
And it's $8,000 a year since 2015. But a couple of problems with that. One, this department is seeking their own legal advice. What happens if they say one thing and RB says another? Whose advice should that department head take? And why shouldn't RB make the decisions of who attorney advice the departments require?
To that specific question, that gets a little complicated because technically I am your attorney, the board, while I provide legal advice to the rest of the county government. The way things have somewhat developed or have come up in the last year or two, there could be situations where there is situations where I'm providing counsel to you as the board, and I may not be able to provide counsel or advice to another elected official. And in that instance, they essentially would need to seek their own counsel, because first and foremost, I would be your counsel as the commission deciding policy. I haven't got it to you yet, but I did get more background information on this issue. So I can get that to you for you to consider, because, you know, I told you I was going to look into it. So I've been gathering information, and I have information that I can send to you, all of you, and then it's something you can consider, and then at this next budget meeting, they could be tackled if you so choose to.
I want to
think-
address that.
Okay.
Yep.
So what you're saying, for example, Sheriff Black, he could have his own attorney and we would have to pay for other legal forces?
It's complicated. That would, it could, depending on how it plays out, it might be that the county provided the payment for those other legal services, or it could be that the elected official would have the responsibility for paying for the outside counsel. You know, we back in like 2018, the county was sued by the sheriff. Is that how that Livingston House thing played out?
He had his own attorney.
He had his own attorney because he was at odds with the commission and the county. So that's when a situation like that could arise.
And he sued us based on an action I took, based on an action he took, but he sued the Board of County Commissioners. By the way, we won in Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But that's a personal
It's not
issue.
personal because it was work-related.
Oh,
But
okay.
he chose as an individual to sue. He didn't sue as the sheriff.
I did not know that.
Benny, yeah.
So for the clerk to have a legal, it's strictly work-related or?
It's election related.
And this entity, I guess they're providing technical advice on procedures and policy. There is a line where it gets into a legal, more of a legal realm that would be outside the scope of the services they provide. And if there was a situation like that, the clerk would need to get outside counsel. It would be outside the scope of these services that are being provided as consulting technical services.
Doesn't the Secretary of State provide that?
They don't. I'll send you the answer to the questions I got, and that has an explanation to that. I don't know if you'll agree with it or think it's satisfactory, but they did provide an example of what the Secretary of State does and does not provide, and how responsive they are, which is not very until Otero County commissioners piss them off, and
I was gonna say.
then they act real fast.
Then they get on it right away.
I'm pretty sure this organization wanted to throw our commissioners in jail, so, and we're gonna turn around and pay them another $8,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
So Julianne, while we're doing budget,
So,
Yep.
yes, the
Yep.
interim budget is due to Department of Finance Administration on June 1st. I'm going to be out of the office next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm probably going to need more than a day to make all these changes and put it in there and have everything presented to you. So the next regular meeting is next Thursday. I don't think I'm going to have time to get it to you by then. So what I'm requesting is, would you be open to having a special meeting just to approve the interim budget? Would probably take 15 minutes, either on the 25th or maybe even on the 18th. just so I have time to get everything, all the changes that we've made into the budget and the final cash sheets for the interim budget to get it submitted by June 1st.
I could do that.
I mean,
on
I can
Tuesday.
give you a resolution on the meeting next week, but I'm not gonna have all these changes. I don't think I'm gonna have time to get it all in there for you in just a day and a half.
Wait until after tomorrow, we have 10 more department requests.
What's that?
Wait till tomorrow, we have 10 more department requests. Oh, there's moving late one.
So.
I can do it on the
If-
18th, as
The
long as
18th
we're
would
out of
be,
here by
would be
noon.
fine. Either one, and it doesn't have to be a Thursday, whatever day works best for you all, but just so long as it's before June 1st, because it's due June 1st.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Hmm?
He has a question.
Yeah.
On F, in your little agenda, the flat rate, that's gonna be the $3 an hour to everybody, not not B, C, D, right? So everybody else in the departments are gonna do that $3 an hour, correct?
Yeah.
So how we budget, like their salaries, when they're coming, their contracts will be coming up before long, is that, what's that budgeted in?
We negotiate that outside of the budget cycle because our agreements don't end during the budget cycle, so that's separate. So when it comes time, a few months before renewal, we'll come to you in executive session and negotiate, and then you have to budget it.
For the following year?
No, it will take effect at the renewal of that contract when it's up.
And that comes out of the general fund?
Yes.
Yes.
Did we decide on the 18th or the 25th for the meeting?
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Did we decide on the 18th or the 25th for the meeting?
Yeah, I mean, the 25th, that's Thursday, or the 18th, whichever works
I can do either
best for
one.
you all is fine. Just so long as I have a couple of days, like 2 or 3 full days to make all these changes. And it's only because I'm gonna be at training next week that I'm not confident I'll be able to get all of that ready for the meeting on the 11th.
I can't do the 25th, I gotta do the 18th.
Okay, I can do the 18th. Can you do the 18th?
Well, there's a meeting already set up for the 25th.
Well, we can change it to the 18th, right? Isn't that the meeting that's on
Yeah,
here
it's
for the
not
25th?
set, we can change
Yeah.
it.
Oh, okay.
Thank goodness, 'cause- So the 18th?
Yeah, I can do the 18th.
Okay. At 9? Okay. Okay, is that it?
I don't have anything
Well, I
else.
freaking Lydia. Okay,
You're 10 minutes late.
we're adjourned, I know.
All right.